thing they did when there was 2,500 people, like we have in some schools on the south and west sides that are still operational at those capacity levels relative to past capacity. So, it's all part of the rich tapestry that BLM Brandon and company are weaving for the city. Coming up at 5:38, speaking of New York, New York Governor Kathy Hochul tries to talk tough at Cornell in response to the anti-Semitic hate that is so prevalent on campus. We'll start there at 5:38.
Yeah, and meet a Jewish Cornell student who's thinking about leaving. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott. Mike, happy Halloween.
Oh, later on I want to do a talk topic. What is Dan Proft going to be handing out for Halloween?
Dan and I probably share the same disdain for Halloween.
Well, you have candy, right? Because if you don't, your house is going to get egged or TP'd or...
No, we haven't. Yes, we hand out candy, but
right.
as little as possible.
What? What?
Well, you hand out full-size bars.
You do?
Oh, yes.
I didn't see that coming.
Come on now.
Wow.
You're going to go. You got to go.
Big pockets, Mike Scott.
Well,
Woo.
I don't hand out Smarties.
Okay.
But we only hand out a few of them, and then we shut the lights off and close the door. Say, we're done. Okay. No more. 31 degrees and partly cloudy now. Snow is on the way for this Halloween. Israeli troops are battling Hamas militants and attacking underground compounds with a focus on northern Gaza. Israel's prime minister says a ceasefire with Hamas is a surrender for Israel.
The horrors that Hamas perpetrated on October 7th remind us that we will not realize the promise of a better future unless we, the civilized world, are willing to fight the barbarians.
Speaking to his nation yesterday, Benjamin Netanyahu added he's committed to bringing all hostages home. A judge is ordering federal agents to stop cutting razor wire at the southern border. In a Monday ruling, a U.S. district judge granted a temporary restraining order banning the federal government from touching the wire installed near Eagle Pass, Texas, and elsewhere. UAW members will be headed back to work soon.
As you know, we have reached a historic tentative agreement at Ford. Our job is to roll the details out so you can make an informed decision. The membership is the highest authority in our union, and you will decide what happens next.
The union reached a tentative deal with GM Monday. More than a century and a half of state control may be coming to an end in Maryland, as voters there will be asked to consider turning over control of the Baltimore Police Department to the city. This past week, Baltimore City Council introduced a charter amendment that would finalize transition of the police force from state to city control. The state of Maryland has had control of the Baltimore Police Department since 1860. 2 are dead, 4 others are hurt following a crash on Lakeshore Drive. It happened on Chicago's near South Side in the 300 block of South Lakeshore Drive. At Evanston, teen held hostage by Hamas is back home. The Consulate General of Israel to the Midwest announcing that Natalie Renan has been returned to Chicago. A spokesperson for the consulate did not mention when Judith Renan would be arriving in Chicago. The Will County landlord accused of stabbing a 6-year-old Muslim boy to death is pleading not guilty to all charges. Joseph Chuba entered the plea in Will County Court. Attorney George Leonard is representing Chuba.
As you know, our client is presumed to be not guilty of all charges, and we are going to do the best we can to protect all his constitutional rights, make sure that he receives a fair trial by an impartial jury.
Judge David Carlson ruled that Chuba will remain detained as he awaits a January 8 court hearing. A small plane had to make an emergency landing on a northern Illinois road yesterday. Police officers in Cary say they noticed a plane flying at low altitude with the propeller not rotating. The plane then did a touchdown on Cary-Algonquin Road successfully. The 26-year-old female flight instructor and 21-year-old female flight student were not hurt. Bulls beat the Pacers in Indy 112-105. Blackhawks were scorched by Arizona 8-1 last night. Justin Fields will miss his 3rd straight game with a bad thumb. Tyson Bagent will start. The news is a service of In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr., now heard Sunday mornings at 6:30 on AM 560. A check of traffic and weather's on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher says no more Mr. Nice Guy.
See, these establishment people sit around and they say, come on, Republicans, go back to being nice again. Stop fighting so much. We got to be nice. Days of nice are gone. The days of nice are over. All bets are off. And I'm hoping they get their act together.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
Hi, my name is Peg. I'm a wife, mother, and grandmother. Family is so important to me, and I want to stay healthy so that I can continue to do the things that I enjoy doing with all of them. I would recommend Balance of Nature. It's so easy to do every day. I feel great, and who doesn't want to feel great?
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. That's 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
This decade is looking like the worst one to retire or be retired in. Now more than ever, you need to stay ahead of turbulent markets and money-grubbing politicians. That's why you need Bob Carlson's Retirement Watch. For more than 30 years, Bob Carlson's Retirement Watch has been helping Americans invest, protect, and grow their assets. A Retirement Watch subscription gives you must-have advice on all aspects of your retirement. Independent advice you won't get anywhere else. When you subscribe to Retirement Watch, you'll get 3 months of Bob Carlson's Retirement Watch newsletter. You'll also get Bob's 5 model portfolios and 5 free reports, including the hidden rules of retirement, hidden real estate tax bumps to avoid, cashing in on Congress's $350,000 retirement shocker, plus 2 more free reports, and an exclusive conference call with Bob Carlson answering your retirement questions. The newsletter, free reports, the conference call, all for just $19.95. Sign up today at yourretirementwatch.com. Yourretirementwatch.com. That's yourretirementwatch.com.
Exergen thermometers are a top choice of medical professionals at highly ranked hospitals across the U.S. Accuracy matters, so make Exergen the chosen thermometer for your home and family.
540 on AM 560, The Answer. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Inbound Kennedy, 25, O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Watch out for some entrance ramp closures near Division going into effect today and lasting for the next week or so. Stevenson, already 30 minutes from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Dan Ryan, 13 minutes, 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Got a stall blocking an exit ramp on the Jane Addams I-90 eastbound to Elmhurst Road. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Cold day ahead. Snow showers hit in the afternoon, just in time for the Munchkins to get those costumes on. Heavier snow could coat some of the roads, about 2 inches or so in some spots in the city and suburbs. 1 to 3 inches could fall across northwest Indiana with a high of 38. 31 right now at O'Hare. Next news at 6. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
They got the beat, the campus beat, the campus beat. Yeah, the campus
Dan and Amy, top of the morning. This edition of Campus Beat focuses on the Ivy League and our elite schools and the anti-Semitism and general barbaric expression on campus. Are you finally disabused of the notion that your kid needs to go to some status school rather than the school that's the best fit? Are you going to stop donating if you're a graduate of Northwestern or the Ivy League or Stanford or Amherst or so many other campuses that have been profiled in the last 2 weeks? Are you finally out? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. Somebody dug up this story from New York Times, February 25th, 1940. How long the institutions of higher education have been under the assault of the left, long ago now conquered by the left. February 25th, 1940, New York Times. Hitler leads in poll. Georgetown students vote on leading personalities. Adolf Hitler was voted the most outstanding personality in the world today by the students of the College of Arts and Sciences at Georgetown in a campus poll undertaken by the Hoya, undergraduate weekly publication. Hitler got 113 votes. Pope Pius XII
coming in 1 second. What did he get?
Took second with a little bit more than half as many, and FDR got third with 35. Boy, wow. Hitler
killed
tripled it, more than tripled the output of FDR there on Georgetown University, right there in the heart of D.C., the heart of civilization, our nation's capital, and so forth. Mm-hmm. So the point is that hate and ignorance have had a home on these campuses for many, many generations. Now, I think that the devolution and the disintegration of intellectual integrity on these campuses has increased markedly in the last 50 years and even more so in the last 20. But it's been a long time. It's always been a haven for the Reds, for autocrats and autocrat sympathizers of all stripes, communists, fascists, and so forth. And so we should not be surprised by what we're seeing over the last 2 weeks on Ivy League campuses. And I also think we shouldn't be terribly impressed by the pushback to what's happening on those campuses. It is nice to see and hear from some new people. The level of commitment, I think, is in question. If this will be sustained, if this will result in terms of any any real cultural change on campus, I'm a skeptic. And even more than the noxious rhetoric, the noxious anti-Semitic rhetoric on campuses, it's just a recognition of how ill-informed our alleged best and brightest are. That's what should concern you as much as the worst expression of their ignorance, the hate-mongering.
And as a Jewish American, do you feel safe? I mean, look what happened in Russia yesterday at the airport. It wasn't, people broke down glass windows, stormed the airfield, wanting to see people's passports. A flight had come in from Israel.
Yeah, and Dagestan, which is a majority Muslim region
country
of Russia.
Right, but they brought their Palestinian flags. They're hunting Jewish people. My God, if I was Jewish, I looked at that, I'd be scared to death. On Saturday, pro-Palestinians took over the Brooklyn Bridge. Then they proceeded to commandeer Grand Central Station and have a sit-in there. I don't know, what is this, 1930?
This is what you're getting. For example, this dilettante calling for corporate boycotts.
We calling you to boycott Starbucks, McDonald's, Disney, Nestle, Coca-Cola, Pizza Hut,
She was wearing Nike Air Force while she was making that claim
Of course
to
she
boycott
was.
Nike. This guy too is part of the crew in the UK with their "From the River to the Sea" chant.
They were just chanting there, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." Is that a chant you agree with, disagree with?
I think that chants and rhetoric aren't necessarily reflective of everyone's belief.
Yeah.
So, for example, "From the river to the sea," of course I've chanted it. Do I think that all Israelis should be pushed out of the country, or Jews or should be treated like this? No.
Do you know which river and sea they're talking about, by the way?
I don't know the names. The river, I know the Mediterranean, it would be the sea, but no, I wouldn't know the river, no.
Okay,
That's it, yeah.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yeah, of course I'm chanting something that I don't fully appreciate the understanding of, and furtherance of a cause I really don't understand, and in point of fact, in his own words, don't fully subscribe to. But, it's just, Courant, that's what you do.
And I know
Great example of the independent thinkers that are incubating on these campuses.
And a lot of the pro-Palestinian protesters, we just want a ceasefire. Please, you've killed the Israel. Netanyahu has killed 10,000, and half of them are children, and we just want a ceasefire. Now's not the time for a ceasefire. Did we have a ceasefire when we were attacked here in the U.S.?
Just as the United States would not agree to a ceasefire after the bombing of Pearl Harbor or after the terrorist attack of 9/11, Israel will not agree to a cessation of hostilities with Hamas after the horrific attacks of October 7th.
Ray in Barrington, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning. Your term skeptic, Dan, I have to agree even beyond that. They're not going to change. My most basic question on the withholding of funds in that is, why do these people give millions and millions of dollars to universities that have billion-dollar endowments, billions and billions in endowments, when for a fraction of that money they can donate it locally and help some kids have a chance to make it ahead, like your scholarship program you've been talking about?
Well, you know why that is. It's because they want to. I mean, some of it comes from a good place. I had a great experience at Cornell, and so I want other kids to have a great experience at Cornell. They have this great department or this great professor, so I'm going to endow this chair for this professor, or I want to support this department because it produces great engineers or something like that. So, yeah, to some extent, I get it, but right, after your endowment eclipses $30 or $40 billion, and you're charging $80,000 for tuition, room and board, subsidized by the federal government. At some point, do you say, well, you have all the resources you need to have a good engineering department and to hire and retain great professors? Now let's take a look at what you're actually doing on campus. And maybe we use the power of our purse strings collectively as alums to say, you have a job that is broader than having this great engineering department that I like, or this great English lit department that I like, although that's pretty rare these days. And I just don't see that. I see, as I've said before, against the backdrop of Ken Griffin and Bill Ackman and the Hunt family and others, the Huntsman family, I should say, with respect to Penn and others, is this pullback is very convenient. And it's after underwriting all sorts of horror on campus for so many years, because the combination of it coming from a good place and then the other piece of it is status. I mean, it's I got my name on the Arts and Sciences building, or I want to protect the status of my alma mater as an elite school because that only serves to brandish my reputation more as a graduate of that school. There's multiple motivations all mixed in, some good and some venal.
Yeah, I think the status part of it, you're right. To have their name on the chair or their name on the building or whatever trumps the other stuff. But again, for the dollars involved, I don't know what the fraction would be, but for a small part of that, they might have an opportunity to save X number of kids in the ghetto on the west side, wherever.
Absolutely. Thanks for the call, Ray. You think Ken Griffin's $500 million would have served Harvard better or served Chicago better. And he was a huge philanthropist in Chicago, so
God,
I'm just
he fixed
using him
things
as
that were broken.
I'm just using him as an example. But of course, I mean, the answer should be obvious.
Well, listen to John Kirby. I mean, because they asked him yesterday about in these protests, because they're not all peaceful. I mean, the one in Chicago, shots fired. We had a police officer maced. The man who had the gun, he was not charged, but the person who maced the police was charged.
At Amherst, 57 people were arrested.
Yeah. Okay, and
on the College of University of Massachusetts Amherst.
All right, and here's Kirby. Keep using the phrase peaceful protest. Why don't you?
How concerned is the White House that these demonstrations will spiral out of control?
No, we believe in the right of peaceful protest. Nobody wants to see peaceful protest turn violent or turn dangerous.
Yeah, well, that's just a pro forma statement. Of course that's true.
But they're already turning violent. They're just ignoring it.
You can run around calling for Israelis to be pushed into the sea if you want. You can run around calling, accusing Israel of war crimes. You can protest for a Palestinian state. I mean, you can protest the incursion into Gaza by the Israelis. You can protest whatever you want. Nobody's saying you can't. I mean, that's the statement with any protest over any issue. It's just that incidents of violent conduct are minimized when it comes to particular protesters and amplified when it comes to other protesters and other issues. That's just a function of press coverage. But it has nothing to do with Palestinians' right to protest or Palestinian sympathizers' right to protest. Go ahead. Speak your piece peacefully. Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, was trying to talk tough. I mean, it should be embarrassing to Cornell grads and undergrads and the Ivy League what's happening, but it's not. It should be embarrassing that you have to stand, as the president of Cornell did, at a press avail with Kathy Hochul, with the governor of your state, or the state where the school is located, right? It's in Ithaca. And you have to listen to her lecture the Ivy League, effectively, on the subordination of anti-Semitism. How embarrassing that moment should be, but it's not.
These are young people who are in an environment that is intended to protect them as well, and their parents need to know this. So after these hateful posts came out, we contacted our state police to assist law enforcement with the investigation. You also are aware that it's not just campus, local, state, but also the FBI has been involved. Our president can address that. But also finding out how to identifying who made the threats and holding them accountable. Because we want to let people know, if you're going to engage in these harmful actions, hate crimes, breaking our laws, you will be caught and you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Yeah, we're real scared.
I mean,
Cornell won an award for this past month for its diversity and inclusion.
Oh, really? I think they should hand that back because 22% of the population at Cornell is Jewish, and people are handing out flyers that say, "Watch out, Jews! Jihad is coming."
Well, here's some of the posts that got law enforcement involved. Going to bomb the Jewish house in retaliation for the murder of 500 martyrs. You've been warned. This is Cornell University, a message board. If you see a Jewish person, in quotation marks, on campus, follow them home and slit their throats. Rats need to be eliminated from Cornell. Boy, where does that's at Cornell. Where does that come from? I wonder. I don't wonder. But I know people are, just like your gasp, shocked. Not shocked at all. Have you been on a college campus lately? No. Most people haven't. Have you talked to people who've been on a college campus lately?
I did. I mean, I checked out with Georgia Tech, like, what's going on here? I need to know. And, you know where our family stands. Where do you stand? And Georgia Tech's pretty quiet. They have other things to worry about. But this Jewish Living Center that you were mentioning, Molly Goldstein, she's the president of the Jewish Living Center, which is now under 24 surveillance and protection. But she's saying that the 22% that are Jewish, a lot of them are thinking about leaving.
I would say all students are absolutely terrified. People don't know what to do with themselves and whether they should stay or leave campus.
Yeah, well, that's why Franciscan University offered an easy transfer for any Jewish student at like place like Cornell that feels uncomfortable. Get you right in.
Good.
Catholic University in Ohio.
Driving them out. That's what they want.
Adam, Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, hi. So I'm in kind of a unique situation. I'm not raised Jewish, but married into a Jewish family, and so it hit close to home. One thing I didn't understand about Israel's response is, as soon as this happened, they should have said, look, go to Hamas, go to the UN, and say, we're giving them 5 days. Return the hostages, return over everyone who did this. They're not going to do that, and then they say, oh, you're getting the full brunt of our military. That helps cut off this propaganda nonsense basically at the knees, and really would help give more credence to Israel's response. I'm not saying Israel's response was bad, but that's something like why, because that's what separates this from Pearl Harbor 9/11 is they took hostages in this situation. You know what I mean?
Thanks for the call, Adam. Appreciate it. Coming up at 6:06 has Halloween, in addition to turning into an opportunity for everyone to dress like a prostitute, also become a ghoulish death cult. 6:06.
But now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
2 are dead, 4 hurt in a crash on Lakeshore Drive. Will County landlord accused in the death of a Muslim boy pleads not guilty. Vucevic leads the Bulls over the Pacers. And WIND Chicago News Time is 6 o'clock.
Israel hits a bullseye. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Their forces have killed a Hamas commander as they continue ground operations inside Gaza.
One of the most significant gets since war was declared against Hamas following the horrific attacks of October the 7th. They say they took out Nassim Abu Ajina, a commander in Hamas's northern brigades. They say that he was responsible for directing, as they put it, some of the attacks of October 7th, attacks that were launched from the northern part of the Gaza Strip.
That's Fox's Jonathan Hunt in Jerusalem. He says they've been hitting hundreds of Hamas targets, and they freed an Israeli soldier from a tunnel. She's said to be doing well. Palestinians now claim the Israeli strikes have killed more than 8,500 people in Gaza, as hundreds of thousands huddle in UN shelters well over capacity. The U.S. has been targeted again in the region.
The U.S. military base in Iraq was the latest target of drones launched overnight by an Iranian-backed proxy group. There were no casualties or damage.
That's Fox's Greg Palcott. At the Israel-Lebanon border, the U.S. has been targeted by Iran-backed militants 24 times. American airstrikes retaliated last week, hitting militant bases in Syria. In a few hours, the Secretaries of State and Defense will testify at the Senate in favor of President Biden's military aid request for Israel and Ukraine, but House Republicans oppose bundling them, only wanting to give funding to Israel. And House Speaker Mike Johnson tells Fox he doesn't want this to be new spending. They plan to
take some of the money that has been set aside for the building and bulking up the IRS right now. They have about $67 billion in that fund, and we'll try to take the 14.5 necessary for this immediate and urgent need.
Democrats say he's playing political games. At the World Series,
Corey Seager smashes the ball down the line. Goodbye! 3-0 Texas.
And the Rangers held on to beat the Arizona Diamondbacks 3-1 on Fox, giving Texas a 2-1 series lead. America's listening to Fox News.
31 degrees. A bit chilly this morning. 6:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Halloween will be a bit wintry for the afternoon. For the trick-or-treaters, forecast is calling for snow showers this afternoon. AccuWeather with frightfully freezing temperatures. An Evanston teen who was held hostage by Hamas is back home. The Consulate General of Israel to the Midwest, announcing that Natalie Renan has returned to Chicago. The 18-year-old and her mother were kidnapped October 7. A spokesperson for the Israeli consulate did not mention when Judith Renan would be arriving back in Chicago. 2 are dead, 4 others are hurt following a crash on Lakeshore Drive. Police say a Chevy sedan hit a Nissan last night. The Nissan spun into a tree in the 300 block of South Lakeshore Drive. The driver and female passenger in the Nissan were killed. 2 other passengers in the Nissan remain hospitalized. The Will County landlord accused of stabbing a 6-year-old Muslim boy to death is pleading not guilty to all charges. Joseph Chuba entered the not guilty plea through attorney George Leonard.
As you know, our client is presumed to be not guilty of all charges, and we are going to do the best we can to protect all his constitutional rights, make sure that he receives a fair trial by an impartial jury.
Judge David Carlson ruled that Chuba will remain detained as he awaits a January 8 court hearing. Northwestern University pledging $100 million in donations over 10 years for the city of Evanston if its proposal for a new football stadium is approved. Residents for and against the project voiced their opinions during a heated city council meeting last night.
And this project that Evanston will be taken upon if they vote for will help so many people, over 3,000 jobs.
Opponents believe allowing concerts will lead to traffic and noise issues.
I'm concerned about the people waiting around 1 to 2 hours after a concert to catch a shuttle or a train. We are talking about thousands of folks. Where will they wait? What kind of disturbances might they get up to while they're waiting?
City Council is expected to issue its final decision November 13. The Illinois State Board of Education unveiling its 2023 Illinois Report Card. Released annually, it gives an overview of information on schools across the state. Proficiency rates remain below pre-pandemic levels, and chronic absenteeism remains alarmingly high.
This year, we see a 5% improvement in chronic absenteeism, which is good news. It's headed in the right direction. Still, nearly 30% of students were chronically absent in Illinois last year.
There was also an increase in both English and math proficiency rates, however, still below pre-pandemic levels. Bulls beat the Pacers 112-105. Blackhawks gave up 8 unanswered goals in an 8-1 loss to Arizona. Justin Fields sidelined for a 3rd straight week. Backup quarterback Tyson Bagent will start for the Bears against New Orleans. The news is a service of MyPillow's 6-pack bath towel sets. They are back in stock and provide you with that soft feel you look for in a towel. For a limited time, 50% savings with promo code LIBERTY. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Brandon Tatum worries about our involvement.
You have these foreign countries burning American embassies. You have out of significant footprints of Iran partnering in some way with Hamas in the attack in Israel. And I think that we're going to be forced to put our hands in this stuff.
The Officer Tatum Show, weeknights at 7, right before Jay Sekulow at 9 on AM 560. The Answer.
You're smart. You waited. Now is the best time to buy from Wilkins Mazda in Elmhurst. If you're looking for a new or pre-owned Mazda, you'll need to visit Wilkins Mazda in Elmhurst. You'll find the Mazda you want, and the price you see is the price you get. No games, no gimmicks. And right now is a great time to buy a new Mazda with limited time incentives that only come around once a year. Right now, get 0.9% financing on new select 2024 Mazda CX-5s and new 2024 Mazda CX-90s for 36 months. Or get 2.9% financing on new 2023 Mazda CX-30s. With approved credit through Mazda Financial Services for qualified buyers, plus tax, title, license, and the $347.26 doc fee. See dealer for details. And to keep your Mazda running great all year round, schedule your next service appointment right online at WilkinsMazdaCars.com. Wilkins Mazda is conveniently located in Elmhurst off York Road and 290, just minutes from Oak Brook, downtown, and Schaumburg. Experience the next level of excellence at Wilkins Mazda in Elmhurst. Visit WilkinsMazdaCars.com.
Your pet isn't just a pet, they're part of your family. Most of the pet food on the market is cooked at high temperatures, which kills nutrients. A scoop of Dinovite is a 3-in-1 daily supplement, adding back key nutrients to your pup's health. Try Dinovite for free. Just pay shipping and handling. Learn more at dinovite.com/radio. That's dinovite.com/radio.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dinovite.
Pure Talk, America's wireless company, is on a mission to alleviate $10 million in military debt by Veterans Day, but they're going to need your help. Now, Pure Talk will donate a percentage of every new order to this great cause. When you make the switch, they make it simple, fast, and easy to their super fast 5G network. Talk, text, plenty of data now, only at $20 a month. Do it right now. Dial pound 250. Say the keyword SAVE NOW. Make the switch to Pure Talk, and you can help a military member in need.
You know, everyone goes to bed, but not everyone goes to sleep. Like many, I have a fairly demanding schedule, right? It's important I get a great night's sleep. I want to be sharp and at my very best. Sleep is something that I used to struggle with. I had tried a number of products to help, but I began searching for a natural solution. Well, I found it from some old friends, Relief Factor. I was at the Relief Factor headquarters, and I learned all about Sleep by Relief Factor. It has been a godsend for me. With Sleep by Relief Factor, I'm finally getting the best night's sleep of my life. I wake up refreshed. I'm never groggy. I feel the difference every single day. I urge you to check out Sleep by Relief Factor. Get your first bottle of sleep for only $19.95. You'll sleep better, feel better, and get more rest. Call 800-4-RELIEF to order now, or you can go to relieffactor.com/sleep. Call 800-4-RELIEF. That's 800-4-RELIEF, or go to relieffactor.com/sleep. If it can help me, there's a good chance it'll help you. Invest in yourself. Invest in peace of mind. Relief Factor Sleep.
6:09, let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Our friends to the north, above the Cheddar Curtain, there's snow on the roads this morning across much of that state, so drive with care there. Inbound Edens, 25, Lake Cook Road to the junction. No snow here yet on the Kennedy. O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange will take you 30 minutes. The Ike at 33 into the old post office. Dan Ryan, 15. From 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
A freeze warning in effect this morning. Clouds, couple of snow showers around today. Breezy and cold. High today only 38. Clear, breezy night tonight. A snow shower, low 28. And then sunny and chilly for tomorrow, the high 45. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
31 O'Hare, 25 Aurora. Next news, 6:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. It is Halloween.
Yes, trick or treat. What are you going to be handing out at the Proft household this evening?
Handing out? What am I going to be getting? Because I'm obviously going out to trick or treat.
All right, what are you going to dress up as?
Down where I'm at in Southwest Florida, yeah. I am a kid, relatively speaking. So if the 50-year-olds don't trick or treat, there's no trick or treaters.
That is so true. You could dress up and go out with Hayek. And
what are you?
What do you get?
I'm Superman. Oh, aren't you cute?
Oh, come here. Let me give you a little candy.
Barton Swaim, writing in the Wall Street Journal, down with Halloween's ironic death cult. Candy and costumes are fine. He is pro jack-o'-lantern. But the day, like the world, has become too ghoulish. Has Halloween become too graphic and ghoulish? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. He concedes to Swaim, my aversion in part arises from my own hidebound pre-modern Calvinist outlook in which death is no laughing matter and necromancy is forbidden by God. But he's more talking about the industrial cartoon death cult that Halloween has become. It's impossible not to notice that Big Halloween is a bourgeois phenomenon. Maybe it's a matter of income, but I wonder if it's also an expression of religious indifference. Lower-income homes are far likely to be observant, and religious people tend not to find amusement in images of hell, torment, and butchery. And also, for the working poor, death isn't so far away as it often seems to the well-off. In poor neighborhoods, people die younger. Experiencing so often the after effects of death makes one perhaps less inclined to celebrate it in an amusing communal way. It's a little dark here, but,
Jeez.
It's an argument.
Yeah, I find certain Halloween directions absolutely morbid and grotesque, and I'm not into that. I don't like horror films. I cannot stand haunted houses. Just even the thought of them, because I went in once as a kid and I got hit in the face, and I've never been back to a haunted house.
Yeah, scarred for life.
It
Traumatic.
is. Did you go to haunted houses as a kid?
Yeah, no, I loved it.
Really?
This is why, I understand what Swaim is saying here. And he goes on to talk about how, ubiquitous Halloween is. The Halloween costumes and opportunities are out in stores in the summer. This has become the run up to Halloween is rivaling the run up to Christmas.
Yeah, it starts in August with pop-up stores.
And it's just it's ubiquitous. Last year, he writes, or later, when he's talking about after this walk he went on where he saw all the competition you're describing of who can come up with the most elaborate and ghoulish and gory lawn presentation.
Right, the decorations are a little
he
over the top.
He said, as I watched an NFL game later, one ad after another appeared for Halloween-themed horror shows. Images flashed across the television screen of a screaming little girl, an ominous figure with a long knife emerging from the dark, a man staring petrified at something out of sight. These scenes would have terrified me as a child. Why are we allowing little eyes to see them? Nobody likes to scold, but the yearly observance that used to be Halloween has taken a dark and unwholesome turn. My fear is that ironic celebrations of death are becoming less and less ironic. Well, yes, there's something to that. The pro-death cult nature of our politics, at least among, half the population or about. But, I'm not totally on board with him because I like horror flicks. I like haunted houses. I don't know about even like the elaborate competitions for the lawn decorations. It's a little much for me. It's not something I would do, but I don't find it dark or unwholesome in that sense. I think you have to take it in the spirit in which most people are doing it, because you have some elaborate and even frightening lawn arrangement doesn't mean that you're some sort of Wiccan or you're.
Well, did you hear what happened in North Carolina? There was a groundskeeper who was mowing this lawn in China Grove, North Carolina, and he thought it was a Halloween prop. It turned out it was a dead man. He was last seen by his family October 8th. He was face down, half naked in the yard, and the groundskeeper's like, "Oh, this is really good. They got me on this one. That's good." So he mowed around the body.
Well, okay.
It is a one-off, but it's ghoulish. It's creepy. They're just looking more realistic every year, and people keep adding on and adding on and adding on.
Well, and it's all of it is just all just marketing to sell stuff. Though,
oh, yeah. and
people buy this stuff, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, that's because marketing works. Even the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission, there's this rundown of all the warnings they're putting out, and they all have that surround Halloween, and they all have these like Halloween themed warnings, like make a safe sleep environment for your baby, and it's. Is your baby's crib full of nightmares? And it's like this crib with this picture of this horrifying scarecrow, like Sawtooth Jack out of Dark Harvest. Told you I like horror movies.
Yes,
in the crib, and it's like, what?
I know. Why would you put
it's like another one is about how to safely carve a pumpkin, and it's like the knife ghost cometh, and it's like a ghost with all these knives sticking out of him behind a guy who's saying, "I know how to carve a pumpkin." It's just weird, everybody gets into this spirit of like a race to be the most frightening and to some extent gory. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect, of course, is the costumes, particularly among girls. But
I was at Georgia Tech and University of Alabama this past weekend, and the girls like to dress up. You're right. Sometimes they're young and maybe they want to show off their bodies, so it's but you take it to a new level. You're like, why? It's an excuse to dress up like a whore.
Well, I mean, some of it is. You see it on the streets of Chicago. I mean, some of it is pretty. I mean, but it's like, is that any different than what you see on any particular given
night? Yeah.
Nice day, or in an airport? So I don't know. I don't know that Halloween is something that is so separate and distinct from the larger culture that we need to be as upset by it as Barton Swaim seems to, who by the way, whose writings I love. But I just think it's, I mean, maybe it's indicative of something, but there are examples of this every day in America that are indicative of the same thing. I suppose with less celebration attendant to it. But George in Naperville, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, it should be all about the adventure for the kids to go up a door and say trick or treat, and the Peanuts Halloween special with the Great Pumpkin. That's what's important.
There you go. Thanks for the call.
So after you're done trick or treating and you have trick or treaters maybe at your place, are you going to hand out whole candy bars like Mike Scott is going to do, which surprises me? It's a big ask.
No, I hand out pocket copies of the Constitution. Of course.
We're all laughing. Back here.
Like, I mean, all this talk about getting kids off. I mean, I obviously when I was young, it was all candy, and that's all I cared about too. But I'm trying to set an example.
Oh, okay.
What happens in Lakeview? You hand out
bulletproof vests,
cartridges. Yeah, I was going to say, you have reloading stations.
No, but if you leave, and you leave if you have to run an errand or something, and you leave a thing of candy out front, that thing doesn't stand a chance. They just come and put the whole thing in.
Oh, there's no restraint.
There's
I'll just take one and leave
no.
some for the other kids.
No.
Yeah, what a surprise.
No. Give me that. Give me that Halloween.
Gimme dat.
Give me that.
Well, there should be a Gimme Dat Halloween candy station on the 5th floor at City
I wonder
Hall.
if Brandon Johnson and his wife are going to take their kids trick-or-treating in their neighborhood, or if they're going to go, to a different neighborhood.
Well, I mean, why not? He's got 130 cops following him around. They should be plenty safe. What about horror movies? Since we're on the topic, and since I'm more interested in movies than actually interacting with the public, what about horror? You didn't watch any horror? Like the horror
I watched
movies?
Exorcist once. I never made it through. And then I watched one of the Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
And that was
in a theater.
In a theater in Mount Prospect, and that's never again. Yep.
What about
stand horror films?
What about? I mean, I guess you could call Friday the 13th a revenge horror movie, but like, what about Prom Night or Carrie? Yeah,
I watched that.
You watched Carrie?
I did.
And did that teach you to treat girls that had, less going on for them, that weren't going to prom after prom after prom, and being crowned homecoming queen? Did it teach you to treat people who are,
yes. I learned a life lesson watching Carrie.
Right. You better treat the uglies with some kindness, otherwise it can come back to haunt you. So that's a pretty good message, I think, from some of these horror movies.
Yeah.
Especially speaking as an ugly. Ed in Glen Ellen, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, Dan and Amy. So last Easter, when Menards had their Halloween stuff, well, maybe not Easter, maybe it was 4th of July. I don't know. Anyways, as we're walking through Menards, they've got the animatronic stuff, motion sensitive stuff that triggers as you walk past. And I got to tell you, when you walk past this huge, 8-foot tall thing that says, "I'm here for your soul." That's what it said.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it's not just fun stuff.
You're on notice.
I'm here for you. I'm here for your soul.
Well,
oh my gosh,
that's the same. That was J.B. Pritzker's re-election campaign slogan. So I mean, why not? He's popularizing it. Thanks for the
Got
call.
a text message. Dan and Amy, you know those very tall skeletons, which they're everywhere in Lakeview.
Yeah, I've seen those.
That you can position that are cool. They cost around $800.
Well, that's what Bart Smith's talking about. It's a bourgeois thing, just like the Christmas decorations, just like, Christmas, what was the Christmas Vacation, right?
Yeah.
That was the Chevy Chase movie.
Right.
That's the
Over the
parroting
top part.
of something that is reflective of reality, right?
But the problem is there's a house on Byron and Southport. They've had that skeleton up for years. And then at Christmas time, they put a Santa hat on it. And then they put it in. I think it's so grotesque and that should be taken down. I mean, where there's no rules anymore, there's no, I don't know.
Best. What did you used to go? I think we've had this conversation before, but refresh my recollection when you went trick or treating.
I can't say.
Homecoming queen. What?
No, I was a Barbie doll one year. Shocker.
Okay.
I was a tube of toothpaste. I was a Crest tube of toothpaste. I'll tweet that out. I did that for years because that was an easy costume. Static cling is always an easy costume. You just tease your hair and put,
tie, pin socks and underwear. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
But that's about. But when I was a kid, when I was really desperate, I put. Well, I can't say because I think I'd get fired. Can you hold on a second? Let me talk to Justin.
Get fired? How could you get fired for something you wore as a Halloween costume as a kid? What are you talking about?
Because I dressed as a ghost.
Oh my gosh! What? But it was so original.
Right. Well, you can't.
Were you like a horish ghost or just?
No,
a ghost?
I just was a ghost. I cut 2 holes in the eyes and one for my nose, and I was a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
That was like the low man. Like you needed something fast, and you had to get out the door, and that's what I did.
I alternated between going as William F. Buckley Jr. and G.K. Chesterton, and the kids seemed to like that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Especially
Sure everybody knew who you were, right?
Mm-hmm. I do love some of these Halloween costumes that are the memes that are making their ways around. This is really good. I mean, I'm going to describe it, so it's a little theater of the mind here. But there's this little girl with a head and like a Biden head on her shoulder, and the hands around her neck with a T-shirt that reads "Quit sniffing me." That's pretty good.
That's good. Got a lot of text messages. Dan and Amy, the original Carrie was the last horror movie I ever watched in a theater. I hate horror films. And then daughter and her friends are trick-or-treating as The Purge.
The Purge, that's not bad. Yeah, that's disquieting, but I mean that's part of the point. That's okay. Last horror movie was Carrie.
That's a lot.
I mean, there have been some good. The James Wan is like really talented, and he's done some great. And I'm not just talking about the Saw movies, but he's done some great horror movies. The Warrens, the horror movies about the Warrens, which is based on a true story. These are exorcists. Why am I blanking on the name? The Conjuring. The couple Conjuring, especially the first one, was really good. So I mean, there's artistic quality to some of them. There's a lot of the slasher movies are just gore and shock value, but like The Conjuring.
What was that called? Like
The
Meatloaf
Witch,
or Meathead?
The Witch was really good in terms of horror movies of the recent past. What would you ask?
What was a Bradley Cooper movie that you? Meat Train.
Midnight Meat Train. That's not. No, that's not. That's strictly for to see how much gore you can tolerate before you turn into a monster. That's basically the point of that movie, and many like it, but that's the most extreme example I can think of offhand. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
It seems like everyone is on a complicated diet these days. Gluten-free, keto, metabolic, sugar-free. And with these diets comes special dietary protocol and food products. You can find plenty of advice on your social media sites, but you need expertise to purchase the right food items. A visit to Lil's Dietary Specialty Shop is necessary to shop the best food choices for a medical diet or health plan. Lil's Dietary Specialty Shop stocks all the hard-to-find foods you're looking for, like wheat and dairy alternatives, sugar-free baking mixes, healthy snacks, and more. There's no longer a reason to put off that diet you're supposed to be on when you have Lil's. The staff has personally researched and vetted each item in the store and has plenty of choices in stock.
Lil's Dietary Specialty Shop on 111th Street in Mount Greenwood on the south side of Chicago. Stop in and shop in person or order online at lilsdietary.com and get your items shipped right to your home. lilsdietary.com. Shop, learn, and be healthy.
Eating Balance of Nature fruits and veggies is not replacing the fruits and vegetables in your diet. It is fruits and vegetables in your diet. Ask yourself, how many servings of fruits and vegetables have I eaten today? Have you eaten 1, 2, 3, and from how many varieties? Most people are less than 3. Our body is an amazing chemical laboratory, and when you give it the right chemistry, it functions the best. Balance of Nature is 31 different fruits and vegetables prepared in a way to give you the ultimate whole fruit and vegetable chemistry. Let Balance of Nature help you supplement your fruit and vegetable intake for a lot less money and a lot less work and a much higher quality of life.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
If your money is not earning at least 6% tax deferred, you need to call Professional Life and Casualty. They're offering a 6% APY on new funds deposited into your annuity, traditional IRA, or Roth IRA accounts. Rate subject to change. Please call to confirm. With Professional Life and Casualty, you pay no surrender charges, no administrative fees, and no withdrawal fees. Professional Life and Casualty has been providing insurance and annuity products for over 60 years. Visit plcinsurance.com, plcinsurance.com. They'll send you a free guide to tax-deferred, no-fee annuity. Earn 6% APY on annuity, traditional IRA, or Roth IRA. Pay no surrender charges, no administrative fees, and no withdrawal fees. Only from Professional Life and Casualty. Call 1-800-651-1800. That's 1-800-651-1800.
Building owners, property managers, and chief engineers. This one's for you.
Hello, this is Bruce Diedrich with Waukegan Roofing, your professional roofer. Everything starts on top. Your investment, your building, and everything in it is protected by your roof. It needs to be in good shape. That's where we can help. If it needs to be repaired or replaced, or you think it might, call us. Let's find out. Here's the number.
847-623-1625.
At Waukegan Roofing, our employees are union-trained roofing professionals with OSHA safety training certifications and have thorough knowledge and expertise regarding the various roofing systems we sell, maintain, and install. We know commercial roofing systems because that's all we do. Over 110 years of doing commercial roofs. Waukegan Roofing has the slogan,
Roofs you can rely on.
Because you can. Here's the number to call.
847-623-1625.
And get the info at waukeganroofing.com. waukeganroofing.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Is there value in listening to people's individual stories of experiencing racism? Is there any value in it? That was a question that was kicked around by Glenn Lowry and John McWhorter on Glenn Lowry's podcast, and we'll kick around their answers at 6:36. Also, a little bit later in the show, you want to stay tuned for this.
What?
Flava Flav's rendition of the national anthem in Milwaukee. You got to hear it.
Who wore it better, him or Roseanne? Yeah. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
31 degrees and partly cloudy right now. Snow is on the way. U.S. forces in the Middle East have been attacked nearly 24 times over the past 2 weeks. Fox's Greg Palkot has details from Israel's northern border.
We are hearing Israeli drones, armed drones overhead. We've been seeing a growing clashes between Israel and Hezbollah, a regional spreading of the conflict as well. The U.S. military base in Iraq was the latest target of drones launched by an Iranian-backed proxy group. There were no casualties or damage. All told, though, there have been 24 such attacks on bases in Iraq and Syria in recent weeks, and that has left 21 service members injured. The U.S. has returned fire twice. At the Israel-Lebanon border, we've been witnessing the results of escalating firings of rockets, missiles, mortars by the Iran-backed Hezbollah militants.
Fox's Greg Palkot says Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is telling top officials the U.S. will not hesitate to retaliate if attacks on U.S. troops continue. Meantime, the Prime Minister of Israel says a ceasefire with the Palestinian militant group Hamas would signal a surrender for his country. Firefighters are battling a blaze, wildfire fueled by gusty Santa Ana winds tearing through rural land southeast of Los Angeles. About 4,000 have been forced from their homes. 2 are dead, 4 others are hurt following a crash on Lakeshore Drive. It happened last night in the 300 block of South Lakeshore Drive. An Evanston teen held hostage by Hamas is back home. The Consulate General of Israel to the Midwest announcing Natalie Renan has returned to Chicago. Natalie Renan and Judith Renan were released into custody of the Red Cross October 20th. Chicago Assembly Plant and the Chicago Heights Stamping Plant are back up and running again. Workers returning to their jobs after Ford reached a tentative deal with the UAW. The Highland Park July 4th shooting suspect will not be a witness at his father's trial. During a hearing yesterday, lawyers for Robert Crimo III said their client would plead the fifth in the bench trial of his father, Robert Crimo Jr., scheduled to start next week. Bulls had a big game and a win over Indianapolis. 112-105. Nikola Vucevic racked up 24 and 17. Bulls visit Dallas tomorrow night. Blackhawks were scorched by Arizona 8-1. Justin Fields will miss Sunday's game as the Bears visit New Orleans. Tyson Bagent will get his third start. The News is a service of Wilkins Hyundai and Mazda in Elmhurst. Experience the next level of excellence at Wilkins Hyundai and Mazda, just minutes from Oak Brook, downtown in Schaumburg in Elmhurst. View new and pre-owned inventory online at wilkinscars.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher looks to better times.
Let's have a return to world peace. Let's have a return to stability. Let's have a return to epic joblessness and epically low mortgage rates and inflation under control and an effort to secure a border. Let's get Trump back in the White House.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Eating balance of nature, fruits and veggies, is not replacing the fruits and vegetables in your diet. It is fruits and vegetables in your diet. Ask yourself, how many servings of fruits and vegetables have I eaten today? Have you eaten 1, 2, 3, and from how many varieties? Most people are less than 3. Our body is an amazing chemical laboratory, and when you give it the right chemistry, it functions the best. Balance of Nature is 31 different fruits and vegetables prepared in a way to give you the ultimate whole fruit and vegetable chemistry. Let Balance of Nature help you supplement your fruit and vegetable intake for a lot less money and a lot less work and a much higher quality of life.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
This decade is looking like the worst one to retire or be retired in. For more than 30 years, Bob Carlson's Retirement Watch has been helping Americans invest, protect, and grow their assets. Subscribe to Retirement Watch and you'll get 3 months of Bob Carlson's Retirement Watch newsletter, 5 model portfolios, 5 free reports covering issues like estate planning and annuities to help you protect your money from the government and grow your nest egg, all for just $19.95. Sign up today at yourretirementwatch.com. yourretirementwatch.com.
This is Dennis Prager. Now you can listen to my show when it's convenient for you and without censorship from big tech. Become a member of the ultimate online community for all things Prager. It's Pragertopia Unlimited. Listen to every radio show over the last 10 years, all commercial free. You can even listen to all my Torah teachings for free. Join today and save 25% off the first year and get a free Pragertopia coffee mug. Go to Pragertopia.com or click the banner at DennisPrager.com.
Make the hiring process work for you. With Indeed's end-to-end hiring solution, you can attract, interview, and hire candidates all from one place. Start at Indeed.com/credit.
6:37. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. A service of Indeed.com. Their end-to-end solution makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit. Eden's at 35 already. Lake Cook Road to the junction. The Kennedy, 55 minutes, and climbing from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Ike right now, stop and go because of an accident approaching the Tri-State, 38 into the old post office. I-55 accident, right shoulder, right near Route 53. You've got stop and go traffic from Weber Road. Dan Ryan in 20 minutes into the Burns Circle interchange. Stop and go traffic through the roadwork zone on DuSable Lakeshore Drive, northbound between Marquette and 57. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Staying cold. We'll have snow showers crossing the area beginning this morning. Heavier snow through the afternoon and the trick-or-treating hours. High 38. 31 at O'Hare. Next news at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and Amy, just a postscript on our conversation about Halloween there before the break. Two things. One, another well-produced horror movie. A well-done horror movie. And one of the producers was our friend Neil Edelstein.
Oh.
New Trier grad. He's not proud of it, but he was. But also this. Oh, The Ring is what
Ring,
I'm talking
okay.
about. Yeah, The Ring. But also this. Like The Conjuring, which is based on true stories and the life of Ed and Lorraine Warren. The other thing, and I know the counter-argument, but it also conveys that evil is real in this world. It's not, in a sense, it's the supernatural, but it's also real. And maybe that's a positive thing. Now, the flip side is to say, well, it's presented as cartoonish and nothing to be afraid of, and evil's always conquered, and that's not exactly necessarily how it plays out, but that the demonic is real, and it is something to be concerned about and feared. I don't know. I guess I'm trying to rationalize my own fandom of horror movies. Anyway, Glenn Lowry.
Yeah. Well, real quick, should I see The Conjuring, or is it going to be too traumatic?
No, I don't. I think The Conjuring, the first one was. I mean, it's one of. It's a. As I said, James Wan is a talented filmmaker. There were some scenes in there that were different than the standard issue horror movies, where you actually, and I'm not talking about gore wise, where you actually you get jolted. I mean, it's surprising. So it's well done. It's I think you should see it.
Okay.
Or at least see how much you can get through.
Okay.
But that's a good movie. I mean, that's a quality film, even if you don't necessarily like the material. All right, anyway. Glenn Loury and John McWhorter, we've talked to them many times. We've talked about them many more times. Glenn is an econ professor at Brown. John is a linguists professor, easy for me to say, ironically, linguist professor at Columbia. And, boy, I'd like to have them back just to talk about what they think of the Ivy League these days. Columbia, 100 professors signing on to a letter defending students that were defending Hamas. There's Columbia University for you.
Dear Lord.
But on Glenn Loury's podcast, which is always a good watch/listen, he and John routinely get together to bat back and forth salient issues of the day. And, Glenn is a generation older than John, so it's interesting to get the perspective, too. I mean, for those of you who don't know, they're both black gentlemen, academics. So Glenn raised the question, this is a good one. Is there value in listening to, encouraging people to tell their individual stories of experiencing racism? I'm talking about black people. Is there value in black people sharing their individual stories of experiencing racism and distributing those stories? The answers may surprise you. Take a listen to McWhorter. He goes first.
All right, let's move on. J.P. Hollywood writes, hi, Glenn and John. A friend saw my copy of Woke Racism. He said he's read some of John's articles. And against my better judgment, we entered into an extensive and at times heated conversation on the topic of race and racism in America. My friend would declare himself a man of the progressive left, and I'm center-right. Whenever I spoke of the objective facts, for example, there are 10 to 20 unarmed black men killed each year by police versus his guess of over 1,000. I was told repeatedly, quote, you need to speak to more black people on their actual experiences, close quote. I said I'd take it under consideration, but I told him I wouldn't engage on the topic again with him until he did the work on studying the facts. Listening to such stories could add a very human touch to a difficult topic. However, I actually don't see the point of either being lectured to or listening to discrete personal experience of racism, which I don't, nor should anyone deny exists. While I think I'm better off not engaging again with this friend, do you think there's value in listening to people's individual encounters of racism?
No.
Yeah,
No.
I thought that was what you were going to say. And I think that's a really good question, don't you? I mean,
It is, yeah. And
He's
here's
put
where
his
I'm
finger on
not
something.
holding back. Yeah, this is my
Okay.
unvarnished me. No, because unfortunately, the nature of the culture is such that for a great many people, when you ask them that question, they're going to exaggerate. It's a very sad tendency I've seen all my life. Or they're going to pick some one thing that happened to them in their 45 years with the implication that that's all of life. That tendency is too strong. It's understandable, but that means that if you're looking for an objective sense of what's really going on, you can't do that. Now, there are plenty of black people who don't do that, of course, and I don't have any numbers, but especially, once you're dealing with educated people, no, you can't. The testimony, I hate to say that it's too likely to be distorted. And so, no, and, imagine this person you're talking to really thinks that, 1,000 black men are iced by the cops every year. And they really think that. That shows you how hard it is to get through to a certain kind of person and why I sometimes trim my sails. Somebody like me is talking about how that wasn't racism or racism wasn't all of it. And there's somebody actually thinking that 10 100s of black men are killed by the cops every year. And it's understandable why they don't want to hear anything but, racism. But if you're dealing with somebody who has that figure in their head and you tell them the real figure and they simply can't listen, and they think that somehow talking to a black person will give you more accurate information, such as what they believe, that somehow talking to a black person will teach you that it really is 1,000 rather than 20, that person can't be reached. As I say in woke racism, you have to choose your battles. And I'm sure that person is a great person in many, many ways. But on race, that person is unreachable, and you and that person should talk about cooking and football and only murders in the building. They're not reachable. It's not a worthy conversation.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 646-36DA, turnkey.pro text line. What's your answer to that same question that was posed by a listener who then Glenn took up and posed it to John before posing it to himself? Listening to people's individual stories of experiencing racism, is there value? Here's Glenn's response.
Do you think there's value in listening to people's individual encounter of racism? And your answer is no. My answer is no, too. You say exaggeration, sure. You know, I'm a social scientist. The first thing that comes to mind is that anecdotes are not data. That is, idiosyncratic reportage doesn't substitute for systematic observation. And, you know, it's a little bit like the climate debate where people point to weather events and they say, see, climate is the deep structure of things. The weather event is the ephemera that's bouncing around the line. You know, sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. You don't want to put too much weight on any given event. There's also the performance aspect to it. You know, you cherry pick your own experience in order to reinforce a certain narrative. Even if you're not exaggerating the experience, it was one event out of an entire life that you're never going to let go of. And anytime the question comes up, you trot that event out.
Yeah, I mean, I think they both make really good points about this. So, and you see this happen all the time, and it's not just on race. I mean, the analogy he used to the climate, same thing. The wildfires in Hawaii, or the hurricane in Florida, or some other one-off event. We say, well, see? I mean, isn't that what you hear from those that are so committed to that position? Well, they're so committed to that belief, and then the positions that flow from that belief, like the elimination of combustion engines, that you cannot get to them. And what happens, as McWhorter said as well, is that the conversation about race with people like that is you have to start from this phony premise that America in 2023 is Watts in 1963. And it's just not true. So if you can't start from a premise where we both agree what's true, the number of unarmed black men killed by police in a year, then you can't have a conversation. This is not to excuse incidents of racism. It's not to excuse incidents of excessive force by police, but it's to recognize the reality so the response is proportional to the issue. And you can't get there if you can't start from what is reality. McWhorter also goes on to talk about another phenomenon, sort of riffing off of and parodying Robin DiAngelo's White Fragility, which, by the way, one of the great book reviews I've ever read was his evisceration of white fragility. It's a fun read. Anyway, McWhorter talks about black fragility.
The little things that happen to you or to me are supposed to be our entire lives. This is all of life, crushing experience every time we leave our homes. That's a terrible thing. But then for a white person to get that message and actually treat you that way, you feel like it feels ridiculous and demeaning. It reveals the lie in it when white people actually take that lesson to heart, which means that no, racism does exist, and we're talking about the personal kind. But the idea that you're experiencing it every day and that you need therapy about it, et cetera, it's a vast exaggeration because times have changed. Yeah, it's that sort of thing, and that includes the cops. You know, people can exaggerate. That's not to say here I am, pulling my punch. Yes, there are horrible things that happen, but that business of the cops being the entire background of yours and my lives, that's just not true. It's an exaggeration, and I hope that people will start calling it out.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. Chuck in Delavan, Wisconsin.
I did numerous Chicago public schools for 3 years. I worked for a company called UBM. Everybody was nice to me. I was always in black neighborhoods. I did the Jewel Oscar on 95th and Stony Island. And on a Friday night when I was handing out all the checks, I had 30 workers. They were all black. I was the only white guy there. And I said, we're going to 5147 Federal on Monday. And half the crew said, we're not going. And it was the projects. It was back behind a police station. We had to do 40 apartment buildings. It was in September, and trying to get everything ready for people to move in. And they said, we don't like the people that live there. And I said, well, if you quit, you're not going to get late. You're not going to get unemployment. Half the crew, they said, we don't like the people that live there. So there's racism within their own. And I had to call a union hall, and there was no black guys that came out, but it was Mexicans and whites, and I was able to finish the project. So there's just like me, I don't want to hang around with white trash. So thank you for taking my call.
Thanks for the call, Chuck. Chuck is always full of surprises, isn't he? I mean, there may be something else, but other than racism, I mean, that one neighborhood doesn't like the residents of another neighborhood or something. But yeah, I mean, the point is, and this is the point that in part Lowry and McWhorter are making, is that, it's about it's personal. It's not systemic. So yeah, there are personal incidents of racist conduct. Of course there are. There are personal incidents. People experience of all sorts of ignorance and boorish behavior and unkind, uncharitable behavior. Sometimes it has to do with race. Sometimes it doesn't. But the idea that your experience can be extrapolated to make some sort of commentary on a society of 330 million people, or an institution in service of that many people, the federal government, or some significant subset of that many people, I mean, it just doesn't hold up.
Got a lot of text messages. One is Dan and Amy, sharing all the individual stories only perpetuates the hive mind.
Well, that's sort of the point that McWhorter was making, wasn't it? All right, coming up, we got Frank from Arlington Heights with his in-depth history minute, so we want to make room for that. We'll be right back with Frank. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM 560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Hi, this is Scott Trout of Cordell & Cordell. There are a lot of great dads out there. Sometimes those dads get divorced. For more than 30 years, we have represented men in divorce, confronting the pitfalls that could devastate your finances or harm your family relationships. While every situation is different, our goal is to get the best outcome for you and your kids. Visit CordellCordell.com to take the first step.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Springfield area attorneys. 2815 Old Jacksonville Road, Suite 103, Springfield, Illinois, 62704.
Your pet isn't just a pet, they're part of your family. Most of the pet food on the market is cooked at high temperatures, which kills nutrients. A scoop of Dynavite is a 3-in-1 daily supplement, adding back key nutrients to your pup's health. Try Dynavite for free. Just pay shipping and handling. Learn more at dinovite.com/radio. That's dinovite.com/radio.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dynavite.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
Major phone carriers make you sign contracts with rigid data plans to trap you into a kind of forced phonogamy. Sounds pretty insecure if you ask me. At Consumer Cellular, we believe in a more consensual and healthy form of phonogamy, free of contracts and more flexible to your data needs. This way, you stick around not because we force you to with contracts and fees, but because you love our phone plans. Like ardently love our phone plans. Phonogamously. Consumer Cellular. When Freedom calls, we're here to answer. Call us at 1-888-FREEDOM.
Rick Borick, host of Unleash Your Wealth.
When the stock market struggles, when inflation is high, you need to start looking through the inventory of all your accounts and say, is every one of these investments working as hard as it could be? Because every month during high inflation that you waste, you're losing 8 or 9% a year.
Unleash Your Wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and our new time at 2 p.m. here on AM 560, The Answer.
AM 560, The Answer.
Have we given up on Frank's sonar? Oh, there it is. There it is. We got to have Justin come up with a riff on this. It's time for In-Depth History with Frank, the teacher from Arlington Heights, because there's nothing new in this world, just the history we don't know. Frank, go.
Good morning. Good morning. It's October 31st, and you know what that means. It's Reformation Day. On this day in 1517, Catholic priest Martin Luther posted his famous 95 Theses to the cathedral door in Wittenberg, Germany. This act of intellectual defiance led directly to the Reformation, which, along with the Renaissance, the Age of Exploration, the Scientific Revolution, and the Enlightenment, was one of the bridges from medieval times to our modern world. Now, Luther's choice of October 31st was not random, as he knew All Saints' Day on November 1st would bring many leading lights of the Holy Roman Empire to Wittenberg for worship and to see the many relics there. No doubt Luther, with the help of Gutenberg's printing press, succeeded. Now, on a personal level, Martin Luther was a somewhat neurotic fellow. Perhaps some of this is caused by the chronic gastrointestinal issues he faced. In fact, this issue is so well documented that historians actually debate whether his epiphany that salvation could be achieved through faith alone was revealed to him in a moment of such physical stress. What is certain, though, is that in our times, October 31st has been transformed into a holiday that rivals Christmas as adults and children start shopping in July for just the right costume. Oh, and one more thing, so we can honor the Celtic tradition of this day. And in the words of Conal Cochran, the proprietor of Silver Shamrock Masks and Toys,
oh, nice.
Happy Halloween.
Very ghoulish, and a nice Halloween Season of the Witch reference. By the way, I am firmly in the camp that Martin Luther was indeed constipated. I know scholars debate that, as you said.
Yes.
And
yes.
What camp are you?
I believe that too.
No,
he was depressed towards the end of his life. He had all kinds of. He was neurotic, no doubt about it, and I believe that was the case.
That's very good. That's Frank's in-depth dive on world history. Frank, thank you as always. Appreciate that.
Have a good day.
Good. Very good. We got an impersonation too out of it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good references in there, and of course, what probably most people don't know is the whole scholarly debate about whether Martin Luther was constipated, which is a great discussion. I love
constipation talk before 7 a.m. It's riveting.
Love Frank. All right, make sure you do your morning constitutional before 7:07 when Leo Leibowitz from tabletmag.org joins us to talk about the war in Israel at 7:07.
And Dan, I'm going to do a hard pass. I just watched the trailer for The Conjuring. I think I just had a mini stroke. Some snow today, cold, a high of only 38 degrees. It is now 7 a.m. WIND, Chicago.
They're going after Hamas inside tunnels in Gaza. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. And as Israeli forces go deeper in their ground operation, they've taken out a key Hamas terror leader.
Nassam Abu Ajina, who directed one of the attacks against Israeli civilians on October 7th. As they do tell Fox News, the efforts are focused around trying to destroy Hamas capabilities and the leadership command inside Gaza.
Fox's Trey Yanks near the border also reports the Israeli soldier turned hostage they freed yesterday is doing well. Israel's prime minister is rejecting calls for a ceasefire as casualties mount in Gaza. Palestinian officials claim it's now more than 8,500 people dead.
Gaza has turned quickly into a hellhole, says a spokeswoman for UNRWA. That's the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees. It's lost 64 of its staff in Israel's bombardment of the territory. The UNRWA spokeswoman telling the BBC one colleague died yesterday, along with his wife and 8 children. 670,000 people are now staying in UN facilities in Gaza.
Well, that's Fox's Jonathan Savage. U.S. forces in Iraq were again targeted overnight, but without any damage done or casualties. I mean, a few dozen attacks from Iran-backed militants in recent weeks. Next hour, the Secretaries of State and Defense will testify at the Senate, pushing for more military aid to Israel and Ukraine. But House Republicans only want to approve $14 billion to just Israel. And on Fox Business Network, Cheryl Cassoni reports they want to take it from the IRS.
The plan is not to allocate new funds, but to pull funds from the Inflation Reduction Act. Of course, there's going to be a lot of pushback from the Democrats, both in the House and, of course, the Senate.
The White House calls it a non-starter. A hearing will continue a second day in Colorado in a lawsuit to block former President Trump from being on the 2024 ballot in that state over his conduct related to the Capitol riot. It's all based on a Civil War era provision in the 14th Amendment aimed at preventing anyone who had taken an oath to the Constitution, then participated in an insurrection or rebellion, from being elected. America's listening to Fox News.
31 degrees, partly cloudy now. Snow on the way for this Halloween at 7:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Scott. 2 are dead, 4 others are hurt, and it follows a crash on Lakeshore Drive on Chicago's near south side. A driver and female passenger in a Nissan sedan were killed. 2 other passengers in that Nissan were hospitalized in critical condition after being rushed from the 300 block of South Lakeshore Drive. The Will County landlord accused of stabbing a 6-year-old Muslim boy to death is pleading not guilty to all charges. Joseph Chuba entered the not guilty plea yesterday through attorney George Leonard.
As you know, our client is presumed to be not guilty of all charges, and we are going to do the best we can to protect all his constitutional rights, make sure that he receives a fair trial by an impartial jury.
Judge David Carlson ruling Chuba will remain detained as he awaits a January 8 court hearing. Northwestern University pledging $100 million in donations over 10 years to the city of Evanston if its proposal for a new football stadium is approved. Residents for and against the project voiced their opinions during a heated city council meeting last night.
And this project that Evanston will vote for will help so many people, over 3,000 jobs.
I'm concerned about the people waiting around 1 to 2 hours after a concert to catch a shuttle or a train. We are talking about thousands of folks. Where will they wait? What kind of disturbances might they get up to while they're waiting?
The city council is expected to issue its final decision November 13. Over 600 part-time faculty members at Columbia College walked off the job yesterday. One of the main issues is the school proposing cuts of up to 350 course selections, addressing a $20 million budget deficit. Residents living in several north and northwest suburbs in Cook County are surprised they're opening their property tax bills with an average increase of nearly 16% in the area. In Schiller Park and Des Plaines, some bills are 30% higher after the latest assessment. Chicago sports. Bulls had a nice win over the Pacers in Indy, 112-105, while the Blackhawks were scorched by Arizona 8-1. Justin Fields will miss his 3rd straight NFL game. The Bears' backup Tyson Bagent will start against New Orleans. Rangers beat the Diamondbacks in Game 3 of the World Series, 3-1. Monday Night Football, Lions over the Raiders, 26-14. The news, a service of Health Insurance Mentors. Are you 65 or older and thinking about Medicare? Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Call Stephen Tucker today for free Medicare advice. Visit healthinsurancementors.com or call 630-674-1551. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dr. Sebastian Gorka explains our current immigration process.
We're not screening these people. I mean, when you can pre-clear yourself on the DHS app while you're sitting in Mexico and everybody's being allowed in as an asylum seeker, do we know really who these people are and what they've done?
America First with Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Go with your gut. Your dog's immune system is based in the gut. A diet lacking in nutrients can cause itching, scratching, and a weak immune system. However, there is a solution. DINOVITE. Dinovite.
It took a grand total of 2 weeks. The dog stopped itching, the hair stopped falling out.
Try Dinovite for free. Just pay shipping and handling. Learn more at dinovite.com/radio.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dinovite.
Pure Talk, America's wireless company, is on a mission to alleviate $10 million in military debt by Veterans Day, but they're going to need your help. Now, Pure Talk will donate a percentage of every new order to this great cause. When you make the switch, they make it simple, fast, and easy to their super fast 5G network. Talk, text, plenty of data now, only at $20 a month. Do it right now. Dial pound 250. Say the keyword SAVE NOW. Make the switch to Pure Talk, and you can help a military member in need.
Did you know most vitamin supplements have a warning label on the back? That's because without the synergy of thousands of nutrients working together that are found naturally in whole fruits and vegetables, vitamins are not balanced. This is why Balance of Nature only uses whole fruits and vegetables, no isolates or synthetic vitamins of any kind. We take a variety of 31 of the highest quality fruits and vegetables and remove the water without changing the rich chemistry. It's then ground to a powder, blended to perfection, and encapsulated, preserving the nutrients and making it easy to get the fruits and vegetables you need. So even though Balance of Nature comes in a capsule and looks like a vitamin, it's very different. Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
7:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is a service of Turnkey.pro. With decades of C-suite experience, Turnkey knows small business. Their team of veteran consultants know how to reduce costs and grow new revenue streams, all without having to hire on-site pros. Turnkey has solutions for your business. Visit Turnkey.pro. We'll start on the Eisenhower accident right shoulder. It's on the outbound side between Ridgeland and I-88. I-55, they're clearing an accident right now northbound at Route 53. Dan Ryan, 2895th into the Burns Circle interchange. Accident on the Tri-State northbound right at Buckley Road, Route 137. Route 53 reported an accident on the exit ramp southbound to Euclid Avenue. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
A freeze warning in effect this morning. Clouds, couple of snow showers around today. Breezy and cold. High today only 38. Clear, breezy night tonight. A snow shower, low 28. And then sunny and chilly for tomorrow, the high 45. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
31 at O'Hare, 30 at Midway, 25 in Aurora. And your next news update is at 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu offered this statement yesterday amid calls from many representatives of in the UN, representatives of countries that compose the UN, in the wake of the intemperate comments from mainly, perhaps entirely, Democrat Socialist members of Congress, people like Cori Bush from St. Louis, a card-carrying member of the Socialist Spice Girls, who called the Israeli response to the terrorist attack ethnic cleansing. Here's what Benjamin Netanyahu had to say.
I want to make clear Israel's position regarding a ceasefire. Just as the United States would not agree to a ceasefire after the bombing of Pearl Harbor or after the terrorist attack of 9/11, Israel will not agree to a cessation of hostilities with Hamas after the horrific attacks of October 7th. Calls for a ceasefire are calls for Israel to surrender to Hamas, to surrender to terrorism, to surrender to barbarism. That will not happen. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bible says that there is a time for peace and a time for war. This is a time for war, a war for our common future. Today we draw a line between the forces of civilization and the forces of barbarism. It is a time for everyone to decide where they stand against the forces of barbarism until victory. I hope and pray that civilized nations everywhere will back this fight, because Israel's fight is your fight. Because if Hamas and Iran's axis of evil win, you will be their next target. That's why Israel's victory will be your victory. But make no mistake, regardless of who stands with Israel, Israel will fight until this battle is won.
It's a couple of salient points that he makes, and Wall Street Journal opined on this too, pretty good editorial, that the response you're seeing from the West in so many quarters, not completely, but in too many quarters, and many other countries around the world, particularly those with majority Muslim populations, exactly points to the need for Israel. Wall Street Journal editorial board writing in their piece, before there was Chancellor Hitler in 1933, there were roving bands of brown shirts inflicting political and anti-Semitic violence on the streets of Germany. They too often went unchecked by police, prosecutors, and politicians who didn't understand the menace, sympathized with the offenders, or merely felt overwhelmed by the scale of the danger. Hitler gained power in part because the German state no longer could maintain its monopoly on violence in defense of small d democratic values. Today's threats to democracy are different, but one lesson is the same and is crystal clear. A Western society that can't or won't muster the will to defend its Jewish neighbors and fellow citizens won't be able to defend itself. And that was the point that Netanyahu was making when he said this fight is your fight as well in the West, and really the world over, but the specific appeal is to the West, no doubt. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Leo Leibovitz. He is the editor-at-large for Tablet, tabletorg.com. Leo, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
What a pleasure.
The comments of Netanyahu against the backdrop of what you're seeing, what we're all seeing on college campuses from elites largely on the left, but perhaps not exclusively, although I can't think of somebody on the right who is saying the kinds of things that Cori Bush or Pramila Jayapal or AOC or Rashida Tlaib are saying. But those comments and against the backdrop of the overall response from the West.
Yeah, I think Prime Minister Netanyahu has got it exactly right. You know, it's easy to look at this and mistake it for some, fight happening somewhere else in some corner of the world that has nothing to do with us, just Israel versus Hamas. It is truly a fight between the so-called axis of resistance, Iran, but actively featuring Russia and China, against all who are civilized. Now, it used to be that fighting conflicts such as this was relatively simple. You knew who the good guys were, you knew who the bad guys were. The thing that makes this particular conflict so really charged and complex is that you now have 7,000 people in my hometown, New York City alone, marching in support of a terrorist organization currently holding dozens of American citizens hostage. What you do with that is way more complicated and calls for action at home as well as abroad.
But what can we do? I mean, I know that they claim 29 or 30 Americans were killed in Israel. Why don't we know their stories? Why aren't their stories coming out?
Well, I'm sorry to be, so jaundiced so early in the morning, but I think it's because so many people who ought to know better, people in classrooms and newsrooms in America's most elite institutions, simply don't care. They would much rather cheer for the terrorists beheading babies because they're, quote unquote, some kind of oppressed minority than stop to think what actually happened to that American grandmother, what actually happened to that young person from New York maybe being held captive in some tunnel in Gaza. That is a sign of absolute, moral depravity.
And then you have the AP. I don't know if you saw their headline after that bloodthirsty mob went into the airport to try to look for Jewish people to kill them. They're checking passports. The AP originally, their headline was, it was an anti-Israeli protest. They labeled it as a protest instead of something. This is the AP.
Mostly peaceful.
Yeah.
Mostly peaceful, right?
While they're tearing down, going through windows and busting in doors.
So, first of all, now I'm forced to cancel my plans for Christmas vacation in Dagestan. But on a serious note, sometimes you play these word games and you think it's so silly. Who cares if they call them protesters or terrorists, et cetera? But I think it's really, what you just said really explains the crux of the issue. If you look at a mob of bloodthirsty savages surrounding a plane and saying, we demand that all Jews be surrendered to us, and you can't bring yourself to say, this is absolutely reprehensible, these people are terrorists, there's something profoundly wrong with you and with your organization and with whatever culture made this possible.
I mean, we're seeing, we're being reminded, for those who've been paying attention, about what's happened to so many college campuses in America, particularly those that enjoy the most status among Americans, ironically. We're also seeing how, pointless the international institutions like the UN are, with the comments from Secretary General Guterres, as well as the resolutions, the competing resolutions, so much so that the protestation from the Israeli delegation to wear the yellow stars, did you think that was that pointed rebuke symbolically was warranted?
Yes and no. Yes, because I totally understand the sentiment. No, because frankly, I don't understand what Israel is still doing, or anyone for that matter is still doing, being a member of the United Nations,
right,
just as much as I don't understand why anyone would send their kids to college. Look, I have a PhD from Columbia University. I taught at Columbia for several years. I taught at NYU for almost a decade. And then when I realized what was going on, I not only left, but wrote an article 6 years ago now saying, it is time for everyone who loves America, definitely every American Jew, to get out of these institutions. I tell my 10-year-old and my 12-year-old 3 times a week, you're never going to college, because I don't want to spend $250,000 and 4 years of your time just so someone could turn you into a Nazi.
And so you couldn't have been surprised to see the letter from those 100 Columbia University professors backing the students and others who were essentially backing Hamas.
I was surprised it was only 100.
Yeah, really? Exactly. The second stage strategy of Hamas here, just in terms of the providing some definition to the description of Hamas as a death cult, they want Israelis to kill to kill residents of Gaza. They want Israelis to kill Palestinians so they can use them for propaganda purposes, right?
It's even more nefarious than that. It's not just some, cold calculus, well, we'll kill them, we'll win propaganda points. Hamas actually genuinely believes that every Palestinian who dies in this struggle is a martyr who goes straight to heaven, and therefore is benefiting in some weird way. And so they're relishing doing this. Their headquarters is right under the main hospital in Gaza. That's a very strategic choice, meaning that if you ever try to strike against these murderers, you would be forced to do it in the vicinity of a hospital. It is so deprived and so evil, and it shows you precisely who these people are.
What is your handle on the preparation for the incursion into Gaza? And we've talked a lot about that over the last week, just how complicated and dangerous that sort of urban warfare is going to be. And obviously the Israelis' commitment is pretty clear, but how do you expect that to proceed? What are the things that concern you most about that?
I'll be very honest. You're completely correct. This is a very, very difficult and intricate operation, and it does wield some good results. Yesterday, we've seen the successful release of the first hostage. IDF had a great operation and released a 19-year-old young woman. But you asked what concerns me, and I'll be very honest. What concerns me is how we got here. And if we're being very candid, how we got here is 8 years of Barack Obama's foreign policy, followed by 4 years of Joe Biden's similar policy, sometimes known as the Iran deal, a policy that rather than strike Iran, isolate it and starve it until these murderous mullahs go away, continues to bring it back to the fore, support it materially by tens of billions of dollars, and integrate it, the administration's word, not mine, into the region. That's a disaster. That's a real threat, not only to the state of Israel, but also, I firmly believe, to vital American national interest, because we are currently strengthening our most fierce enemy in the world.
What do you think of President Biden's job so far in reference to Israel?
I'll be honest. I'm pleasantly surprised. I am deeply touched by both the president's visit and the president's unwavering support. I think that he truly and passionately wants to stand with Israel. However, I would be much more relieved if, as part of this awakening of having witnessed these unspeakable acts of barbarism, the president would also announce the reversal of this foreign policy towards Iran and say that we're returning to sanctions, we're returning to a coalition of international pressure against this genocidal regime, and we're returning to claim our part in this, what is very clearly a bubbling global conflict.
Well, sure. I mean, the disgusting irony of standing with Israel now and against Hamas and Hamas's financiers like the mullahs in Tehran, but at the same time, I mean, America is basically funding both sides, both directly and through our energy policy, and so we need to pick one, it would seem.
I would say something more. I would say that we need to pick none. I wrote a piece in July calling on America to end military support to Israel right away. Military support to Israel is really just a form of backdoor subsidy to American defense contractors. Israel doesn't need it. Israel actually loses more than $1 billion every year simply because it is forced to buy American products rather than develop its own weaponry and weapon systems. What I want to see, what I believe so many of your listeners also want to see, is a reality in which no American lives are ever threatened by no American lives are ever threatened by these conflicts abroad. I want to see a reality in which Israel is free and unfettered to defend its own interests. I want to see a reality in which America understands who its real enemies are and stands fierce to Iran. What is really important to understand right now is that the Iran deal, this policy of integrating Iran into the region, isn't a form of so-called not playing in the region. It is actually something much more nefarious. By supporting Iran, we're basically picking sides. I say, stop supporting Iran, put the sanctions back on, stop the military aid to Israel, and let Israel defend itself in a way that also furthers and serves American interests. That is a win-win solution for everyone.
That's compelling. There's a former CIA officer who was on the Iran desk who argues in an op-ed that Tehran cannot sit back and watch Israel crush Hamas, and absent deterrence, like you're describing, the Iranians will open a second front. What's your concern about this becoming a powder keg and extending beyond the region?
I mean, becoming is a gentle word. It already has. This morning we were informed that the Houthis, the Iranian allies in Yemen, have already started firing towards Israeli target as well. You have Hezbollah, the Iranian proxy, up in Lebanon. You have Iranian drones fighting with the Russians to kill Ukrainians outside of Kiev. This is already a global conflict. The only question here is, How are we going to fight it, and when are we going to fight it? We could do it right now on terms that are beneficial to us, mainly by letting Israel do what it needs to do to crush this enemy. Or we could do it later on terms that are beneficial to our enemy, and most likely here at home, because these people aren't going to stop. They're going to bring this forward to us, to our cities, to our communities. And I, for one, would desperately want that to not be the case.
You wrote this piece in City Journal called America in Banlieue, which we talked about a bit last week. It was very interesting. It was sort of a message to suburbanites in the West, particularly America. Give us your distillation of that, talking about what you've seen, what you were describing in Western Europe, and the potential contagion for suburban America.
But look, last couple of weeks, I'll be very honest here, really shocked me. I'm an immigrant to this great country myself. I was born in Israel, and it was obvious to me from a certain age that I would like to have the privilege of making my life in this great country, which I love and respect dearly. To see hordes of people in the streets of Brooklyn, in communities that have traditionally been made up of generations and generations and generations of immigrants from all over the world, all of a sudden behaving like those rioters that you see in the poor suburbs of Paris, and burning up the block, quite literally setting fires in the middle of the street in support of Hamas, in hatred of Jews and defiance of America. That to me was a really new phenomenon and a very troubling one. There are many reasons to how we got here, but the most important question is what do we do moving forward? I have a bunch of thoughts that I share in the piece. They include, for example, taking very, very seriously federal funding to universities that allow this kind of incitement to happen. That absolutely has to stop. We can no longer continue and support with our taxpayer dollars that kind of anti-American, anti-Semitic propaganda. But whatever we do, I think that ought to be a great big wake-up call that we need to start taking this threat seriously. It's a domestic threat.
And maybe cutting off some of the funding from places like Qatar to American universities while we're at it.
100%.
Well, who's funding all these protests? I mean, they just, there has to be an organizer. There has to be some kind of cash.
Yes, indeed there is. Sadly, the answer is complicated. Some of the money comes as through a lot of these university structures from the Qataris, but sadly, look, a lot of the money for these supposed peaceful non-government organizations is coming from organizations like the Open Society, run and paid for by George Soros, one of the greatest blights on Western civilization in the last 30, 40 years. We're talking about very, very large infusions of cash to hire and train these operatives. We have seen it wreak havoc in American cities because their other project is, training and getting DAs elected to do things like eliminate bail. And you guys in Chicago know better than anyone what that looks like. And we're seeing it here too. And that is also something that I think we need to address very seriously.
Liel Leibovitz is the editor-at-large for Tablet, tabletorg.com. Liel, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's what Chicago is talking about. It's Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy on AM 560. The Answer.
Did you know most vitamin supplements have a warning label on the back? That's because without the synergy of thousands of nutrients working together that are found naturally in whole fruits and vegetables, vitamins are not balanced. This is why Balance of Nature only uses whole fruits and vegetables, no isolates or synthetic vitamins of any kind. We take a variety of 31 of the highest quality fruits and vegetables and remove the water without changing the rich chemistry. It's then ground to a powder, blended to perfection, and encapsulated, preserving the nutrients and making it easy to get the fruits and vegetables you need. So even though Balance of Nature comes in a capsule and looks like a vitamin, it's very different. Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
You're smart, you waited. Now is the best time to buy from Wilkins Mazda in Elmhurst. If you're looking for a new or pre-owned Mazda, you'll need to visit Wilkins Mazda in Elmhurst. You'll find the Mazda you want, and the price you see is the price you get. No games, no gimmicks. And right now is a great time to buy a new Mazda with limited time incentives that only come around once a year. Right now, get 0.9% financing on new select 2024 Mazda CX-5s and new 2024 Mazda CX-90s for 36 months. Or get 2.9% financing on new 2023 Mazda CX-30s. With approved credit through Mazda Financial Services for qualified buyers, plus tax, title, license, and the $347.26 dock fee. See dealer for details. And to keep your Mazda running great all year round, schedule your next service appointment right online at WilkinsMazdaCars.com. Wilkins Mazda is conveniently located in Elmhurst off York Road in 290, just minutes from Oakbrook, downtown, and Schaumburg. Experience the next level of excellence at Wilkins Mazda in Elmhurst. Visit WilkinsMazdaCars.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
The median homeowner in Cook County's north and northwest suburbs saw their property tax bills rise 16% this year. And in a related story, the 2023 Illinois State Schools report card is out. Since your property taxes mostly go to the local schools, we'll connect those dots with Ted Dabrowski, all things Illinois policy related, 737.
But first, let's stop by that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
31 degrees. Skies are partly cloudy. Snow on the way. At 7:32, Israeli forces are continuing their fight against Hamas, and they're now going after the tunnel networks used by the terrorists. Fox's Trey Yinks has the very latest from southern Israel.
The Israelis say there is currently heavy fighting ongoing inside the Gaza Strip as those infantry troops continue to push deeper into Gaza. This morning, I did meet with the country's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, who spoke about the situation inside. There are heavy battles ongoing inside the Strip between Hamas militants from the Al-Qassam brigades and the Israeli military. We do know the number of hostages, though, has risen to 240 people. That does not include the 5 that are back safely in Israel. That's 2 American citizens, 2 Israeli citizens, and that soldier that was rescued yesterday by the Israeli military during a raid that was conducted with intelligence by the Israeli Shin Bet.
The IDF says they've killed a Hamas commander who they say directed part of the attacks against Israel on October 7. Talk radio host Larry Elder is ending his 2024 Republican campaign for president. Elder saying in a statement he's endorsing former President Donald Trump. He's the 4th major candidate to suspend or end his campaign. The Supreme Court will hear a case today that centers around when a government official can block access to their social media. And the Minnesota Supreme Court will hear oral arguments this week, all part of a case that could determine if former President Donald Trump will be allowed on that state's presidential ballot. 2 are dead, 4 others are hurt. It follows a crash on Lakeshore Drive on Chicago's near south side last night. An Evanston teen held hostage by Hamas is back home. The Consulate General of Israel here to the Midwest, announcing that Natalie Renan has returned to Chicago. Her mother, Judith, and the 18-year-old were kidnapped October 7 in that surprise terror attack by Hamas near the border with Gaza. They were released October 20th. The Illinois State Board of Education is unveiling its 2023 Illinois Report Card. The state report card released annually, trying to give some overview of information on schools in the state. Proficiency rates remain below pre-pandemic levels, and chronic absenteeism remains alarmingly high.
This year, we see a 5% improvement in chronic absenteeism, which is good news. It's headed in the right direction. Still, nearly 30% of students were chronically absent in Illinois last year.
There was also an increase in both English and math proficiency rates, however, still below pre-pandemic levels. Chicago sports, Bulls over the Pacers 112-105. The Blackhawks were just torn apart by Arizona 8-1 last night. Tyson Bagent gets the start for the Bears. Justin Fields will miss his 3rd straight game this weekend as the Bears visit New Orleans. The news, a service of Townstone Financial. Should you buy a new home? Can you afford it? Can you pay off credit cards using your home? Townstone.com has the answers. 312-896-2110. Nobody beats their rates. Illinois Mortgage Licensee 6629 NMLS 136639. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Charlie Kirk sees a way to help Trump.
Why has Brian Kemp not fired Fani Willis? Brian Kemp has the ability to fire prosecutors in the state of Georgia. And Brian Kemp is just going to sit there as governor of Georgia and allow person after person to have to plead guilty, what is obviously a mounting type conspiracy case to Donald Trump.
The Charlie Kirk Show. Afternoons at 1, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
It's Reveille, it's trick-or-treat time, and it's no better time to expose the ghoulish tricks from leftists that have been played on Americans. These are the tricks or hoaxes of the identitarians. Unable to find the hate in reality, the attention seekers make it up. Jussie Smollett is probably the most famous hoaxer. Before him, there was Rachel Dolezal, who was a white blonde woman who pretended to be black. The latest hoax is that of comedian Hassan Minhaj, a Muslim Indian who lied repeatedly about fake racial incidents. My favorite hoax, because few are aware of it, is the hate has no home signs that sit in virtue-signaling leftist yards. Lori Higgins first told the story back in 2017, writing, "Just days after Donald Trump was elected in 2016, NBC News Chicago reported that bisexual student Taylor Volk, then a senior at North Park University, said she had received 2 anonymous emails and a note taped to her door that contained homophobic slurs, harassing, threatening language, and references to Trump. Just 3 days later, following the interview the traumatized Volk gave to the press, 7 social justice warriors had the hate has no home yard signs ready to go. But then things took an unexpected turn, writes Lori Higgins. A week after Volk's story made the news, an investigation revealed her entire story was a hoax. But progressives can't let either a crisis or a hoax go to waste. So with very little press on the hoax, the Gang of 7 were able to disseminate their banal virtue-signaling yard signs around the country and even the world. And so this Halloween, as you take the kids trick-or-treating, if you happen upon a house that has the hate has no home here sign, maybe let them know their sign is based on a hoax. I'm Jeannie Ives. For a list of more hoaxes, go to breakthrough-ideas.com and click on the newsletter link. That's breakthrough-ideas.com.
Have you saved enough? What are you going to do with Social Security? What will your taxes look like in retirement? Scott Tucker believes retirement planning should be easy, and you should be able to get all the information you need in one place. That's why Scott created the Retirement Decoded Toolkit, a comprehensive resource for your retirement. In it, you'll find a copy of his latest book, Escape Illinois: Should I Stay or Should I Go? This book will provide insight on taxes, Social Security, income, and more. To get your free Retirement Decoded Toolkit, text KIT, K-I-T, to 847-474-3888, or go to retirementdecoded.com. Now, in addition to the book, you'll also receive resources on retirement's most common concerns. Get your Retirement Decoded Toolkit from Scott Tucker right now by texting KIT to 847-474-3888, or go to retirementdecoded.com. Investment advisory products and services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC. A registered investment advisor, this is a paid placement.
Make the hiring process work for you. With Indeed's end-to-end hiring solution, you can attract, interview, and hire candidates all from one place. Start at Indeed.com/credit.
7:39. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. We'll start in LaGrange Park, where there's an overturned vehicle accident. LaGrange Road and Harding. DuSable Lakeshore Drive is absolutely jammed northbound in the construction zone. Marquette up through 47. I-57 and the Bishop Fort both jamming into the Ryan merge. Things are also slow on the Skyway as you merge into the Ryan this morning. The Ryan itself, 33 from 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. The Ike accident center lane. It's on the outbound side of the Ike at 9th Avenue. Traveling inbound on the Ike, it's an hour from 390 into the old post office. The Kennedy settling in right now at an hour and 10 from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Cold Snow showers developing through the mid-morning, heavier snow by the afternoon, and a high of 38. Snow showers, breezy, and early in the evening, clear and cold late with a low of 28. 25 in Aurora, 27 in Wheeling, 25 in Naperville, officially 31 at O'Hare. Your next news update is at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by In the Know with Wealth Management Group, hosted by Craig and Leslie Bolano Sunday mornings at 10. Learn more at investwithwmg.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when. You're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. That theme music means it's time for a weekly confab with Ted Dabrowski, president of WirePoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Boy, we got two big reports out, one on property taxes and one on government school performance statewide.
Where should we start?
Well, let's start with the funding, property taxes. Right. In the north and northwest burbs, where you had the triennial reassessment, the median residential tax bill increased by 15.7%. That's the largest percentage increase in at least the last 30 years, according to Cook County Treasurer Maria Pappas's office.
Yes.
And in some places, Schiller Park, Des Plaines, 30% increases.
Oh, my God.
Taxes went up for more than 318,000 households and down for 92,000. Commercial bill increases, the median was 2.2%. But we know residential property taxes mainly fund K through 12 schools. So how are they doing? Let's take a look at ye old report card. The top lines, of course. The 2023 student outcomes. What do we see? 34.6% of the kids are doing reading at grade level. 26.9% of kids are doing math at grade level. And that's with a $6 billion incremental addition in funding to K through 12 education since 2019. So they're not back to 2019 numbers, which were 37 and 32 respectively. And even if they were, you still have basically 7 in 10 kids in Illinois that don't read at grade level, and 8 in 10, 7.5 in 10, that don't do math at grade level. Honestly, let me say this one more time. If the schools in Illinois, the government school systems in Illinois, were set up to not teach kids how to read, how to write, and how to do arithmetic, I don't think the numbers would be that different. I don't think you could worsen the numbers if the point was to not teach kids these basic skills. And at Cadillac prices on top of it. Stay the course, though. Everything's good. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. But now let's get Ted Dabrowski's perspective on it. Ted, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy.
How about that? And, please elaborate on my dot connecting when it comes to a favorite topic for, I don't know, the last 3 decades, property taxes, funding K through 12 education, and the banging you're receiving for the bucks you're providing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same old story, like you said, for 3 decades, where where we throw more and more money. You have to remember, we talked about these property taxes just now. Well, they're the highest in the country, or maybe New Jersey's are higher, but we're top two. So we're spending tons and tons of money. It primarily goes to schools. And so we look at the school results, and most kids can't read, and even fewer kids can do math at grade level. And it gets really sad, across the board. You mentioned the broad numbers, right? Those are the big statistics. But then when you start looking at the minority, there's a lot of minority cities. Decatur's a big minority city, Peoria, at least in the schools. And, there, forget 30% can read. In Decatur, it's 5% of blacks can read. In Peoria, it's 7% of blacks. And the Hispanic numbers are just a little better. I mean, that's almost like nobody can read, right? It's not like it's 5% of black Decatur kids, and for whites it's something like 11%. So, you're talking about a destruction of one of the workforce, a destruction of a future city, and pile up on top of that the bill keeps getting bigger and bigger. It's scary, and when you mentioned some of those increases in property taxes, Des Plaines nearly 30% up, Niles and Norridge 20% up. People aren't going to be happy. They're not happy already, but
maybe somebody should call Marty Moylan. Hey, residents of Des Plaines, call your state representative, call your state senator. What's her name? Kelly? Yeah, up there in Northwest Suburban Cook. How they doing for you? Good?
Well, Maria Pappas, who, by the way, looked like an Elvis impersonator yesterday, she said there's over 900 different governments in Cook County, and of those 900, 672 raised their taxes. So, and there's going to be no relief in sight. So wouldn't this motivate more people to move out of Illinois? Because the suburbs aren't going to save you.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's going to be harder and harder to move out because your home values are going
Your home's
down,
being liquidated.
right? Yeah, you're screwed there. And then 2, houses are much more expensive everywhere else. And 3, these interest rates are now at 8%. So everything becomes more difficult. And for Illinois, we'll have to see how the economy does. But it's all adding up. It's all adding up to be pretty ugly.
It's almost like maybe you need to do something about where you live. It's almost like that. Yeah. Oh, gee, what a novel concept. By the way, too, just to put numbers, what do we have? What's the K through 12 population in Illinois? Like 2.1 million kids?
No, 1.85.
Oh, well, of course it's dropped.
Down a good bit. Yeah,
yeah, it used to be 2.1. Now it's 1.85. So 1.85. So you see like a 3% drop in reading at grade level. I mean, just to put like raw numbers on it, 3.1% of 1.85. That's about 54,000 kids that fewer reading at grade level than they were just 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Just to give you aggregate numbers, talking about tens of thousands of kids, and even more with respect to math, which is 5 points down from 2019. Tens of thousands of kids fewer are reading and doing math at grade level. And what do you think their prospects are going through the system and then getting out and getting into the system?
Yeah, and it's even worse than that, Dan, because as we looked a few weeks ago, we looked at how many are close to grade level. And the majority are way far away from grade level. So that means that they're like, well, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 grades below. So, they're sad to say they're kind of gone. It's going to be really hard to catch up a majority of those kids because they're just too far behind. So.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
The other big thing is, this whole property tax thing is also a disaster because it's kind of like they talk about the perfect storm. We've been writing about this for a long time, that what's happening is commercial valuations and the amount of commercial that we have in Illinois shrinks. They keep shifting more and more of the tax burden to homes. And we saw that was destructive for South Cook when all the industry moved out and the tax bill was left just for homeowners. It's kind of happening at a macro level, in Cook County, where the burden keeps shifting to homes, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And there's another $1 billion spent by governments in Cook County this year. So you put all that together, and it's really whacking homeowners. I certainly got my surprise. I'm not happy.
I'm not happy with my car insurance bill. It almost doubled because of all the other vehicles that are being stolen in my neighborhood.
Jeez.
Yeah, consequences.
And Dan,
right?
you're going to pick up the tab, right?
Moving on to Goshen, the EV battery plant that's heading to Manteno. I know if you oppose that and you oppose the subsidies, state and federal, that you're a xenophobe. But I found this interesting. It turns out that Goshen is connected to a Chinese Communist Party paramilitary organization. It's called the Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps. And in July of 2020, the Treasury Department of the United States sanctioned XPCC for its human rights abuses. The XPCC is a paramilitary organization that is a subordinate to the Chinese Communist Party. This is from the Treasury Department's 2020 press release. The entity and officials are being designated for their connection to serious human rights abuses against ethnic minorities in Xinjiang, which reportedly includes mass arbitrary detention and severe physical abuse, among other serious abuses targeting Uyghurs, the Turkic Muslim population indigenous to Xinjiang. So there you go. Nothing like getting in bed with these folks if it wasn't not just getting in bed with them to hail their location to Manteno, but then to subsidize them with Illinois taxpayer dollars on top of it.
Yeah, that's the part that it's hard to get out there and into the news, but there's big concerns about how tied Goshen is to the Communist Party. And it's no secret. There's no secret. Again, big Chinese corporations, and they're tied to CCP. The issue here is what makes it more dangerous is this is critical infrastructure. You're talking about batteries, and that's going to be important for the defense industry in China. So, this is the kind of stuff that Christopher Wray has warned about, very strongly. Same thing for Blinken. Krishnamurthy, who's a Democrat Illinois representative, has warned about it. So there are big warnings about getting in bed with the groups like Goshen, and yet Pritzker not only invited them, but he gave them a lot of that cash that was given to him by the legislature to help bring companies to Illinois. So, $536 million doled out to a Chinese company that we can't trust. Or in this, maybe I should say this certainly hasn't been vetted either at the national level or by Pritzker.
Well, it's been vetted to some extent by our federal government. They've got him tied to a Chinese Communist paramilitary organization that's persecuting Uyghurs. I mean, there's some vetting for you. I'd like to hear a response from Jelly Belly on that.
Well, the things that we've known all this. Everybody's known this, and yet it's a little confusing as to why the Treasury isn't, doing more. There's a certain vetting that's done. It's called the Form 800. That hasn't been done by CFIUS, which is the group that should be reviewing it. It hasn't been done by Pritzker, and it certainly hasn't been done by the mayor in Manteno. So this is the stuff that ordinary residents in Manteno are begging for. Give us a vetting process. Tell us how you did this. Tell us why we don't know anything. And it's really, again, one of those unfair shove down your throat deals.
Before we let you go, update the story you told us about last week, the Neutral Neighbors group up there in the North Shore that you're a part of, having this event with a couple of academics to talk about gender identity issues. You got bounced from the Writers Theater in Glencoe. I see that you landed at the Wilmette Library. Is that a go still?
Well, it's still a go. We're making sure that we meet all the library, let's call them requirements. This is important. It's an important thing to have, broad, open, free speech discussion on the gender issues. The library does all kinds of things. I even went to Rainbow Happy Hour to watch a young lady sing about how important it is to be open to transgenderism. And they held that there. So we're hoping that the library stays strong and holds opposing views about the concerns of social pressure leading to more girls becoming transgender. So the library is still there, but they're asking lots of questions to make sure we don't, that we abide by their rules.
Oh, I'm sure. NeutralNeighbors.org if people want more information on that event next month. Ted Dabrowski, President, WirePoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Thanks for joining us as always.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
In a world where financial landscapes can change rapidly, safeguarding your savings and retirement accounts is paramount. Direct Bullion USA is more than just the #1 rated gold bullion dealer in America. We're your trusted partner in navigating the uncertainties of hyperinflation and political upheaval around the world. Direct Bullion USA can provide you with the knowledge and resources to fortify your financial stability and protect what matters most. Call us now at 888-787-GOLD. Precious metals like gold and silver have been a safe haven investment for hundreds of years. Get started when you call Direct Bullion USA at 888-787-4653 and get your free gold investing starter kit today. All it takes is one call to 888-787-GOLD. Take control of your retirement and protect your future with Direct Bullion USA. Call 888-787-4653. That's 888-787-GOLD.
You're smart. You waited. Now is the best time to buy from Wilkins Mazda in Elmhurst. If you're looking for a newer pre-owned Mazda, you need to visit Wilkins Mazda in Elmhurst. You'll find the Mazda you want, and the price you see is the price you get. No games, no gimmicks. Right now is a great time to buy a new Mazda with limited time incentives that only come around once a year. Right now, get 0.9% financing on the new select 2024 Mazda CX-5s and new 2024 Mazda CX-90s for 36 months. Or get 2.9% financing on the new 2023 Mazda CX-30s with approved credit through Mazda Financial Services for qualified buyers, plus tax, title, license, and the $347.26 dock fee. See dealer for details. And to keep your Mazda running great all year round, schedule your next service appointment right online at WilkinsMazdaCars.com. Wilkins Mazda is conveniently located in Elmhurst off York Road and 290, just minutes from Oak Brook, downtown, and Schaumburg. Experience the next level of excellence at Wilkins Mazda in Elmhurst. Visit WilkinsMazdaCars.com.
If you're self-employed and purchase your own health insurance, I have some great news. From now until January 15th, the health insurance exchanges are open again. And even if you've never qualified for a health insurance subsidy before, you most likely will now. The American Rescue Plan expanded subsidy eligibility to millions of Americans who have never qualified before, even to those with high income levels. And this year, you can purchase a multi-state PPO policy, which includes access to Northwestern Medical Group, as well as other teaching hospitals around the nation. Employers who provide small group coverage also have new options, and so do seniors looking for Medicare supplement coverage. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Obamacare, then you need a local expert on your side. C. Stephen Tucker from HealthInsuranceMentors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 25-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than 10 years. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551.
Did you know most vitamin supplements have a warning label on the back? That's because without the synergy of thousands of nutrients working together that are found naturally in whole fruits and vegetables, vitamins are not balanced. This is why Balance of Nature only uses whole fruits and vegetables, no isolates or synthetic vitamins of any kind. We take a variety of 31 of the highest quality fruits and vegetables and remove the water without changing the rich chemistry. It's then ground to a powder, blended to perfection, and encapsulated, preserving the nutrients and making it easy to get the fruits and vegetables you need. So even though Balance of Nature comes in a capsule and looks like a vitamin, it's very different. Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 8:08, why Trump is right on tariffs. That's the position of Orrin Cass from American Compass. He'll explain it at 8:08.
But now let's head into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott. Snow's on the way, huh?
Snow is on the way for today. Chilly temperatures for the young trick-or-treaters going out tonight. 2 are dead and 4 hurt in a crash on Lakeshore Drive. The Highland Park shooter will not be a witness in his father's trial. And the Bulls pass the Pacers in Indy. WIND Chicago News Time is 8 o'clock.
Israel takes out a Hamas commander. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. A terror leader who helped carry out the attack in Israel October 7th that started the war.
The Israelis say there is currently heavy fighting ongoing inside the Gaza Strip as those infantry troops continue to push deeper into Gaza.
Fox's Trey Yanks near the border also reports Israel keeps coming under attack from Gaza and Lebanon and beyond.
The Israeli military says that the Arrow missile defense system has intercepted a surface-to-surface missile that was likely fired by Houthi rebels in Yemen.
Inside Gaza, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are in overcapacity UN shelters, and Palestinian officials claim more than 8,500 people have been killed in Israeli strikes. At the Senate, the Secretaries of State and Defense will testify this hour, and Fox's Ryan Schmelz reports from the Capitol.
The two will make the case for the White House's $106 billion emergency package that would go to Israel, Ukraine, Gaza, and the southern border. But the package is likely to face pushback from Republicans like Senator Marsha Blackburn, concerned that aid to Gaza could end up in the hands of Hamas.
The system for getting aid into there is broken.
Now, in the House, Republicans only want to provide military aid to Israel with no more for Ukraine right now. And they want to fund the $14 billion in Israeli support by taking some of the new IRS funding Democrats approved last year. The White House calls that a non-starter. U.S. troops in Iraq and Syria targeted again by Iran-backed militants. This time they aimed at
Ed al-Assad. It's in western Iraq, and it hosts U.S. troops and other international forces. This latest strike, it was carried out early this morning by two armed drones, and according to what sources told Reuters, it did not lead to any casualties or damage.
Fox's Alexandria Hoff. The 24 recent attacks have injured more than 20 Americans in all. Federal Reserve policymakers are about to start a two-day meeting to evaluate the economy and inflation. No interest rate hike expected this time. America's listening to Fox News.
32 degrees, partly cloudy now. Clouds are overspreading the area and snow is on the way. 8:02 is our time on AM 560, The Answer. 2 are dead and 4 others are hurt. It follows a crash on Lakeshore Drive on Chicago's near south side in the 300 block of South Lakeshore Drive. An Evanston teen held hostage by Hamas is back home. The Consulate General of Israel for here in the Midwest announced that Natalie Renan has returned to Chicago. She was kidnapped by the terrorists October 7 during a surprise attack by Hamas near the border of Gaza. They were released into Red Cross custody October 20th. Her mother, Judith Renan, is expected to arrive in Chicago later. A Will County landlord accused of stabbing a 6-year-old Muslim boy to death and is pleading not guilty to all charges. Joseph Chuba entered the not guilty plea yesterday in Will County Court. Judge David Carlson ruling that Chuba will remain detained as he awaits a January 8 court hearing. A 16-year-old boy is dead following a shooting in Chicago's Avalon Park neighborhood. The team was in a parking lot yesterday in the 1900 block of East 87th when he was shot. The Highland Park 4th of July shooting suspect will not be a witness at his father's trial. During a hearing yesterday, lawyers for Robert Cremo III said their client will plead the 5th in the bench trial of his father, Robert Cremo Jr., scheduled to start next week. Bulls beat Indy 112-105. Blackhawks were scorched by the Coyotes in the desert 8-1. World Series Baseball, Rangers over the Diamondbacks 3-1. Monday Night Football, Lions over the Raiders. The news, a service of Wilkins Hyundai and Mazda in Elmhurst. Experience next level of excellence at Wilkins Hyundai and Mazda. Minutes from Oak Brook, downtown in Schaumburg, in Elmhurst. View new and pre-owned inventory online, wilkinscars.com. 8:04. Time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. Now, the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Elizabeth McDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report.
JetBlue says it was hit by staggering delays because of weather in the summer quarter. The airline lost money in the period. JetBlue is also expecting to report a loss for the current quarter. Caterpillar's earnings topped expectations. The heavy equipment company says it's seeing strong demand for its high-end construction equipment. The government infrastructure project is resulting in upgrades to roads, railways, and other transportation. It's also seeing demand from customers in oil and gas, defense, and other areas. Apple shares are lower. The company introduced new MacBook Pro and iMac computers at its Monday event, along with 3 new chips to power them. And Anheuser-Busch InBev saw a small improvement in its recent quarter. The stock is up 3%. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda, invested in you.
8:05, a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
The Sean Thompson Show.
Are we going to continue down the path of bankruptcy, down the path of government supremacy? You see, Jim Jordan represented a change in that. Jim Jordan was not only the chairman of the Freedom Caucus, he's somebody who has been always fighting the Leviathan, which is why he's not very liked by the people who would prefer the Leviathan stay in charge.
The Sean Thompson Show, weekday afternoons at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
There's nothing worse than hearing about people living in pain. So I'd like to tell you about Keith from Washington and his Relief Factor story. After years of activity, from college football to running a martial arts studio, at age 51, Keith's body felt like it was wearing out. So he gave Relief Factor a try. Keith says he now has, quote, little to no pain in my knees and highly reduced neck pain. Feeling so much better, he pursued a second-degree black belt. I can testify to everything except the black belt part, how much it has helped me. Relief Factor. If you're living with aches and pain, see how Relief Factor, a daily drug-free supplement, could help you feel and live better every day. To get started, try the Relief Factor 3-week quick start kit. It's only $19.95. Comes with a feel better or your money back guarantee. Visit relieffactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF. That's 800-4 Relief.
If your car goes on the fritz, you rush to the garage for repairs. But if you've got high blood pressure, well, what do you do then? 1 out of 2 adults have high blood pressure. It's not a rare occurrence. It's not like a super blue moon. And the thing is, managing it has gotten so much easier. Now you can get help from a small bottle of juice from my friends at 120 Life. It's a natural juice drink that helps lower your blood pressure without enriching Big Pharma or the side effects of pills. The juice has pomegranates, tar cherries, cranberry, hibiscus, beetroot, and magnesium, all natural ingredients that help control my blood pressure. I'm taking it. I love it. Go to 120life.com. That's 120life.com. And order their 2-week trial pack. Order it now. Enjoy risk-free money-back guarantee. If you don't see lower blood pressure numbers in 2 weeks, you get your money back. You're not going to see that from Big Pharma. Use coupon code LIBERTY at checkout. Save 15%. 120life.com. We need more stuff like this.
Your pet isn't just a pet. They're part of your family. Most of the pet food on the market is cooked at high temperatures, which kills nutrients. A scoop of Dynavite is a 3-in-1 daily supplement, adding back key nutrients to your pup's health. Try Dynavite for free. Just pay shipping and handling. Learn more at dinovite.com/radio. That's Dynavite.com/radio.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dynavite.
Pure Talk, America's wireless company, is on a mission to alleviate $10 million in military debt by Veterans Day, but they're going to need your help. Now, Pure Talk will donate a percentage of every new order to this great cause. When you make the switch, they make it simple, fast, and easy to their super fast 5G network. Talk, text, plenty of data now, only at $20 a month. Do it right now. Dial pound 250. Say the keyword SAVE NOW. Make the switch to Pure Talk, and you can help a military member in need.
8:09. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is the service of Starcase. Starcase offers a wide variety of rack frames and server cabinets for your computers and rack-mounted electronics. They also stock the rack-mounted accessories you've been looking for. Go to starcase.com to get started. Kennedy right now at 1 hour and 15. From O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Kennedy outbound to the big airport in 40 minutes. Ike in 53,390 to the old post office. Outbound Ike, they're removing an accident out of your way. between Austin and First Avenue. Should be out of your way by now. Inbound Stevenson, you're jammed up as you approach the inbound Ryan, 57 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. I-57 and the Bishop Ford slow into the Ryan merge. The Ryan 40 minutes, 95th into the Burn Circle. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
A freeze warning still in effect for early this morning. Cloudy with a couple of snow showers. A breezy cold day today, the high 38. Breezy this evening, a snow shower, low 28. Sunny, chilly day tomorrow, the high at 45. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
Cloudy at O'Hare and 34. Snow in Aurora and 30 degrees. Your next news update is at 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Test scores and reading and math proficiencies may be down over the last 3 years, but American wealth is up across the board. Recently, the Fed and the Treasury Department released its 2022 data from the Survey of Consumer Finances, which is a survey they do every 3 years to ask households about their finances, and that helps economists calculate things like medians. Noah Smith, who's a former econ professor at Stony Brook University and a blogger, had a good write-up on this. Here's some of the top lines. America's wealth is way up since before the pandemic. The increase is very even across the board, with people at the bottom of the distribution gaining proportionally more than people at the top. Inequality is down, including racial inequality, educational inequality, urban-rural inequality, overall wealth inequality. Debt is much less of a problem. There's even some surprisingly good news about income as well as wealth. In other words, a rising tide is lifting all boats. Maybe we shouldn't believe all the doom and gloom that we're hearing in the media, even against the backdrop of high inflation. The biggest piece of good news is the typical American family got about 37% richer between 2019 and 2022. A lot of that, of course, has to do with the value of home prices, because that's where most middle-income families' wealth resides, is income prices, but it's not limited to that. Of course, a lot of this has to do, the qualifiers, a lot of this has to do with the funny money that the government printed up and distributed, but that in part allowed a lot of households to pay down debt, so that debt is less of a problem than it was 3 years ago. That's the argument. So if the rising tide is lifting all boats with a little bit of funny money and high interest rates that leave people holding on to an increasingly scarce asset, a home for sale, which increases the price, then what are we talking about here? It's just a sort of a stay the course position that America's in. Is it? It's very interesting data. It's a bit counterintuitive against some of the data that we're hearing, not just on inflation, but in terms of credit card debt increasing and so forth. But that's the data the government is peddling. Let's get some response to that from Oren Cass, who is the executive director of American Compass. Oren, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Does that data surprise you?
Well, not necessarily. I think there's a lot of reasons when you look at the kind of finances of households to see that things are positive. In some respects, it's still a follow-on from all of the pandemic era policies and just the amount of money we sent out the door. I think the flip side that is really important to focus on for thinking about the health of the economy is when we look at actual, things like business investment, growth in the productivity of workers, the things that ultimately drive our prosperity in the long term, there the numbers look really bad, and I think that's the reason why there is rightly so much concern.
And that concern led you, I suppose, in part, to write this piece on tariffs and your argument why Trump is right on tariffs. So lay out the case.
Yeah, I think there's been a really interesting debate ongoing for a while now, since Trump first ran for president back in 2016, about the effect that globalization has had on the American economy and how free trade is working for workers. And for so long, economists and the policymakers on both sides of the political spectrum tried to assure Americans that free trade is good and more free trade is always better, and embracing China and bringing them into the WTO, and even offshoring all of our manufacturing to them somehow was going to be to the benefit of the American economy. And the reality is that has not been the case. And what I think it comes down to, and this is the focus of this essay that I wrote for the Wall Street Journal, is that making things matters. Our actual ability in the American economy to manufacture things, to have a strong industrial base, is really important ultimately to the health of the economy, to big picture measures like economic growth, and also to the more personal measures like how workers and their families are doing and whether communities are thriving. And all of those models that said free trade is good, more free trade will be better, they all ignored that. They said it doesn't matter whether we can make anything here.
Well, I mean, do we? I mean, it's not like we don't make anything. We make lots of things, but do we need to make everything? I mean, comparative advantage is still a real principle, isn't it?
Well, there's no question that we do still make things here, and also that we don't need to make everything. I think, trade, if it's working well, is a great thing. The problem with trade as it has been working, and with, as you mentioned, the model of comparative advantage, is the assumption is that it's actually trade, that we make stuff to send to other people and people make stuff to send to us. That's, if you go back and read Smith in The Wealth of Nations, that's what he's talking about. He specifically says the case for trade is that we should want to trade some part of the thing that we make here for some part of the thing that others can make elsewhere. And that's not what's been happening with trade, particularly with China. Instead, what you see are these huge trade deficits, right? And what a trade deficit means is that other countries, particularly China, are making massive amounts of stuff for us that in the past American workers might have made. But instead of sending that to us and in return we make stuff and send it to them, what we're sending back to them is our assets, meaning we send back IOUs from the federal government saying, well, here's our government debt, we'll pay you back later. We send back ownership of American companies. We send back ownership of American real estate. And so it's not actually that comparative advantage that you were describing that could work well for everybody. It's a total hollowing out of the core and the future of the American economy. And that's why, and this is sort of the central point of this essay in the Wall Street Journal, even as you see economists just looking at their models on the blackboard saying comparative advantage is supposed to work, actual business leaders who work in the economy and are trying to drive growth have been raising the red flag for years. Folks like Andy Grove, who was the legendary CEO of Intel, back when Intel actually was the leading chip manufacturer, he said, look, if we stop making things here, if we offshore all the production, ultimately we're going to forget how to make things, and we're going to lose the ability to innovate and be a technology leader. And Warren Buffett likewise looked at what was happening with China and said, we're behaving like a family with a really prosperous farm that is just mortgaging it off piece by piece and not worrying about the future. And both of them, nobody thinks they're economic dummies. Both of them looked at this situation and said, what you need is something like a tariff. You need policymakers to intervene and make it more attractive to produce things here in America instead of just importing them from overseas.
Well, one could argue, from a free market perspective, that one of the things they could make it more attractive to produce things here as compared to overseas is to look at the domestic regulations associated with making things here compared to other places too. So, government creates a lot of the problems and then is going to ride in by, perhaps creating new ones with tariffs, depending on the exact nature of the tariff and who the targets are. I mean, Americans do benefit from trade with China, as noxious as it is on some levels, in terms of everyday household goods that are cheaper than they would be otherwise. And there is an argument to be made about looking at these matters through the eyes of the consumer. You want to protect American purchasing power too.
No question. There are benefits to cheap stuff for American consumers. But I think it's important to understand why it's so cheap and what's actually happening here. If I were to say, well, let's just give every American consumer a credit card so that they can just go buy stuff on credit and they don't have to worry about paying for it, and we're just going to sort of accumulate all of that debt in the federal government and someone else will pay it back someday, you could say, well, that's great for American consumers, right? But certainly no conservative, no sane conservative would say that's in the long run good for those consumers or America generally. And so I think it's really important to kind of get beyond the abstractions and think about what it actually means for our economy if we sort of celebrate this kind of dependence on living on credit and foreign producers. And you see it taking hold in the American economy. I think, one of the most fascinating statistics that I've come across recently is that productivity in our manufacturing sector is actually declining. Not just it's not growing as fast as it used to. You actually need more workers in American factories to make the same amount of stuff that those factories could have made a decade ago. That is a shocking failure of our economic system. That just should not be able to happen in capitalism. And there's no way to be on that trajectory and believe that us or our children are actually going to be better off in the long run.
When I think of the tariffs, I'm a free market guy, as you're probably picking up, but I do hold out some concerns that you raise and others have about national security sensitive products and industry, and the idea that we're dependent on the Chinese communists for the production of so many pharmaceutical drugs or for rare earth minerals or all the things that go into chip production, for example, in a world dominated by microchips to fuel a 21st century economy. I do get that, but it seems to me that the national security grounds are more compelling than worrying about trade deficits. We have trade surpluses with countries that are not very receptive to American goods. And we trade deficits with countries that are receptive. So it doesn't seem to me that the trade deficit focus is an overriding concern.
Well, I'm a free market guy too. I think it's really important to keep in mind that until pretty recently, the last few decades, the American understanding of free markets was a free American market with very high tariffs to insulate that market from what was very different behavior in the rest of the world, right? Abraham Lincoln was proudly a tariff man. Teddy Roosevelt was proudly a tariff man. Calvin Coolidge was proudly a tariff man. It was only in the context of the post-World War II sort of rebuilding the world, winning the Cold War era, that we landed on this idea that being for free markets meant this radical version of free trade where we were just going to try to sort of integrate our market into a global market. And when you talk about China in particular, it's really important to realize that free trade is not the natural extension of free markets. Free trade is destroying our free market, because what you have in China is a market that's now as big as ours that is not free at all. It is state controlled by an authoritarian communist free market here in America. If you're thinking about China, if you actually value a free market in America, I think you have to say, actually, we need to be sure that China can't be distorting it. And that's where this trade deficit is so important. The trade deficit is not some natural feature of a healthy economy. In a healthy economy, you would want to see balanced trade. We have this trade deficit because countries like China, and when it comes to something like, semiconductors, countries like Taiwan are aggressively distorting their own markets to try to move production into them. So what is the free market model telling an American manufacturer, well, sorry, the Chinese Communist Party is subsidizing your competitor, so you lose? Or is the free market model saying, actually, what the Chinese Communist Party does should not be able to affect what kind of competition we have in our capitalist economy?
Right. Well, I mean, then the Chinese suffer under the weight of their own anti-competitive authoritarian policies, too, and they'll pay the consequences for that. They are paying the consequences for that. They've never realized the strength of having 4 times as many people as America, for example. But I take your point. Good discussion. Oren Cass, Executive Director of American Compass, says check out his column in the Wall Street Journal, Why Trump is Right About Tariffs. Oren, thank you again for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, a plan for growth, and don't have time to wait for a bank to respond. With Signature Bank, you not only have a banking partner that has roots right here in Chicago, but our decisions are made locally too. Signature Bank knows that when you have a question or problem about your business, you want answers. You need someone who will pick up the phone or respond to your text. You need someone who is always there for you. That's Signature Bank. We are a team that wants to get to know you and your business. Want to be Signature Bank's next success story? Give us a call today at 773-467-5630 or visit us online at signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
Have you noticed cracked or sinking concrete around your home, driveways, sidewalks, garage floors, or patios? In addition to looking bad, cracked or sinking concrete causes an uneven surface that poses a safety hazard. Hi, I'm Roy Spencer, president of Permaseal. Would you like to fix the problem without replacing the concrete? We have the solution for you. Permaseal polylevel foam can be injected beneath concrete surfaces, leveling and preventing future settlement. Call Permaseal today at 800-421-SEAL for a free evaluation. The polylevel process is done with minimal disruption, quickly and at a fraction of the cost of concrete replacement. And unlike traditional mud jacking methods, polylevel foam is lightweight so it doesn't add additional weight to the area. Polylevel is the most durable and cosmetically appealing solution to your cracked or sinking concrete. Call Permaseal today at 800-421-SEAL. That's 800-421-SEAL or visit permaseal.net.
Before he came to By the Hand Club for Kids, Travis was actively in a gang. He didn't think God was interested in his life. After he came to By the Hand, his life was transformed. By the Hand spared no expense in showing they're all about Jesus. They care about kids, mind, body, and soul. Learn more at salem.bythehand.org. That's salem.bythehand.org.
Homeowners experiencing low water pressure, rusty yellow water, little to no hot water, or pressure so low that showering is difficult?
Honey, don't flush. I'm in the shower.
These are all symptoms of clogged and corroded galvanized water pipes that are filled with gunk older than you. You should see it. It's disgusting. You drink it, brush your teeth with it, and bathe in it. Yuck. For your family's sake, repipe your home with quality PEX or copper pipes from All Affordable Plumbing. We're your local family-owned and operated repiping expert. We can repipe your home in 1 to 3 days with minimal disturbance, and we include a lifetime guarantee. And for a limited time, we're offering 12-month no-interest, no-payment financing and a free water heater. So if you have low water pressure, call for a free in-home estimate at 800-NEW-PIPE or visit allaffordable.org. That's 800-NEW-PIPE or visit allaffordable.org. If you have low water pressure, a copper repipe will get you flowing again. Call for a free estimate at 800-NEW-PIPE. That's 800-NEW-PIPE.
Rick Borick, host of Unleash Your Wealth, talks about the importance of tax planning in retirement.
A qualified financial planner can take you through all the steps to show you every single legal way you can use to reduce and minimize your state income taxes across the board, so that, again, you keep more of your money and your family keeps more of your money.
Unleash Your Wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and our new time at 2 p.m. here on AM 560, The Answer.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Who's trying to get American hostages out of Gaza? Well, one of the individuals and groups is Alex Plitzas, who's an Army veteran and a board member of Special Operations Association of America. He joins us at 8:38. You're going to want to stay tuned.
Oh, yeah. But now let's swing into the newsroom first. Check in with Mike Scott. Good morning, Mike.
Snowfall across the area at 8:32. Israeli troops are battling Hamas militants and attacking underground compounds with a focus on northern Gaza. An estimated 800,000 Palestinians have fled south, even though Israeli airstrikes have pounded the entirety of the enclave, buoyed by the first successful rescue of a captive held by Hamas. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected calls for a ceasefire and vowed again to crush Hamas's ability to govern Gaza or threaten Israel through Iran. Michigan Congressman John James said a weak response could lead to further Iranian attacks against U.S. interests. He said so on Fox moments ago.
Looking laser focused on sanctions. By failing to enforce sanctions, we are infusing, the administration is infusing billions of dollars, $30 to $60 billion in oil revenue back into Tehran.
Iran's Ministry of Foreign Affairs saying the U.S. would have a price to pay if they keep supporting Israel. A judge is ordering federal agents to stop cutting razor wire at the southern border. U.S. District Judge granting a temporary restraining order banning the federal government from touching the wire installed in Eagle Pass, Texas, and elsewhere. As the criminal fraud trial of Sam Bankman-Fried begins to wrap up, the former crypto billionaire will take the stand one final time. The former CEO is accused of fraud after the exchange and its trading firm collapsed late last year. 2 are dead, 4 others are badly hurt following a crash on Lakeshore Drive overnight on Chicago's near South Side in the 300 block of South Lakeshore Drive. The Will County landlord accused of stabbing a 6-year-old Muslim boy to death is pleading not guilty to all charges. Joseph Chuba entered the not guilty plea yesterday in Will County Court. Judge David Carlson ruling that Chuba will remain detained as he awaits a January 8 court hearing. Housekeeping workers at a downtown Chicago hotel walked off the job over the facility's pet policy. Housekeepers at the Hilton Garden Inn are demanding that management alert housekeepers at the beginning of their shift if there's a pet staying in the room they are assigned to clean because of the extra work and mess involved. Workers picketed in front of the hotel Sunday and some on Monday. Bulls winners over the Pacers in Indianapolis, 112-105, while the Blackhawks were beaten badly by Arizona, 8-1. World Series baseball, Rangers over the Diamondbacks, 3-1. Monday Night Football, Lions over the Raiders, 26-14. The news service of Wilkins Hyundai and Mazda in Elmhurst Experience the next level of excellence at Wilkins Hyundai and Mazda, just minutes from Oak Brook downtown in Schaumburg in Elmhurst. View new and pre-owned inventory online at wilkinscars.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dennis Prager explains a glaring difference.
As I have said, and I'm not the only one, the primary difference between Hamas and the Nazis, since both wish to exterminate the Jews, one of Israel, one of Europe, the biggest difference is that the Nazis tried to hide what they did, whereas Hamas wants it publicized.
The Dennis Prager Show, weekdays at 11, right before Charlie Kirk at 1 on AM 560. The Answer.
I'd like to tell you about something that speaks to the very core of our values as Americans, a veteran-owned company on a mission to make a real difference in the lives of our military members. Talking about Pure Talk. Our veterans gave everything to protect our nation, and Pure Talk understands the sacrifices they've made. They've set an ambitious goal to eliminate $10 million in military debt by Veterans Day, and they need your help. When you switch to Pure Talk's lightning-fast 5G network, they'll donate a portion of every new order to this cause. You could make a real difference just by choosing this wonderful cell phone service. And Pure Talk's plans start at just $20 a month, offering unlimited talk, text, more data, and a mobile hotspot. Just dial pound 250, pound 250, and say the keyword Dennis Prager to make the switch. Dial pound 250 and say Dennis Prager to switch to Pure Talk today.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
I'm Carolyn. I've been in private practice of physicians physical therapy for 35 years.
And you're going to come in, but breathe. Yep, perfect.
I open up at 4 a.m. and I'll go on till 10 a.m. and it's day after day. And as you can see by the equipment here, we are intensely active. People watch, they observe, and people say, Carolyn, what's your secret? And I say it's from proper diet, proper exercise, and of course through Balance of Nature. I'm 60, but since taking Balance of Nature, I feel the energy level of 27. I've been taking Balance of Nature for several years, and I love it. I endorse it, I believe in it, and I would recommend it.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. The House of Representatives has a new speaker, Mike Johnson of Louisiana. Now, it's time for the People's House to get on with the people's business. There's a lot to do. The arc of history is bending as I speak to you. The question is whether it bends in the direction of freedom and the rule of law and human dignity, or in the direction of authoritarianism, barbarism, and vile anti-Semitism. Speaker Johnson gets it. His first order of business.
The first bill that I'm going to bring to this floor will be in support of our dear friend Israel, and we're overdue in getting that done. We're going to show not only Israel, but the entire world that the barbarism of Hamas that we have all seen play out on our television screens is wretched and wrong, and we are going to stand for the good in that conflict.
It was a very impressive first speech. Speaker Johnson, congratulations and Godspeed. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu.
8:38, let's get an update on the roads. We do that, of course, in our Team Hochberg Traffic Center. It is the service of Lowe's. Shop the Black Friday Everyday event. Get the lowest prices of the year on select major appliances and save $100 on every $800 you spend. Valid through 11/8. Appliance savings vary based on purchase amount. Some exclusions apply. See Lowe's.com for details. The Kennedy at 1 hour and 6 from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Back outbound 35 to the big airport. Ike in 1 hour to the old post office. The Stevenson jams up 44 minutes, 3:55 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Heavy and slow from Harlem into the Dan Ryan. And the Ryan itself 36 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Snow falling across the area. Heavier snow showers will fall and coat the roads. Later today, high 38. 34 right now. Next news at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. I saw our next guest on Fox Business, and just thought he was really sharp and insightful on what's happening in Gaza and what can be done, first and foremost, to get American hostages returned to their families. His name is Alex Plitzas. He's an Army veteran. He's a board member of the Special Operations Association of America and a non-resident senior fellow with the Middle East Program's N7 Initiative. And he joins us now. Alex, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
So when I saw you with Varney, you were talking a little bit about what you and your organization, which I understand is comprised of Special Forces veterans, are doing to try to help extract American hostages from Gaza. Can you explain that to our audience?
Sure. So it's not necessarily the hostages. It's more there are 500 to 600 American citizens who are trapped inside Gaza. That's in addition to the 10 or so folks who remain held hostage by Hamas inside Gaza. So our group, again, Special Operations Association of America, has been working with friends and colleagues over at Save Our Allies. We all came together for the Afghan evacuation. About 5 or 6 folks I worked with, we actually helped to run flights to support the State Department in the fall of 21 while they were waiting for the Qatari government to get up and running. And then we did evac rescue operations for citizens trapped in Ukraine. So we kind of fell into the space in 21 and have been working ever since. So through techniques developed, through some technology, some tradecraft, helping to navigate people remotely to safe locations while we can get to a point where we can actually pull them out. It's very difficult in Gaza because everything's kind of walled off at the moment, quite literally. So in the meantime, it's keeping everybody safe, moving them to safe locations, and coordinating with both the U.S., Israeli, and Egyptian governments, for their locations to make sure that they're safe, they're not going to be accidentally bombed, that type of thing. So we know the line.
Are there some Americans that are already at the border there near Egypt that are waiting to get out? Because NBC keeps showing Americans with passports saying we just let us out of here, please.
I mean, there's Americans kind of all over Gaza. We're specifically the ones that we're working with. We're not really going to talk about now just for their safety because there are still a target. But there's a good amount of Americans who are definitely ready to get out as soon as the gates are open.
Of the overall universe, how many Americans are have not gotten to a place you would describe as a safe place for now until you can extract them? Just to give us a sort of sense of order of magnitude.
I mean, it depends. I can't prove a negative in terms of the folks we're not talking to, but I mean, the ones that we are, if you take that as an overall percentage representation of the population at large that we know is in Gaza, it's several hundred that are trapped in areas where they're not particularly safe at the moment.
I want to talk a little bit about how you describe the urban warfare that is coming. I've been using the metaphor you used of an anthill, but develop that for us. What do Israeli forces face when they enter Gaza and try to begin dismantling the Hamas terrorist infrastructure?
It's a great question. So people will kind of toss around different terms of what the Israelis are planning to do. I think they formulated it quite well in terms of what they're setting out to achieve to make sure it's realistic, right? The end state's a different story, but you can't defeat an ideology with bombs and bullets. So Prime Minister Netanyahu said what they're setting out to do is to, quote, demilitarize Hamas. So again, you can't defeat ideology with bombs and bullets, but what you can do is you have to then go in, conduct a giant cordon and search, where you're going to have to go through the area methodically, section by section, building by building, and try to take away strategic weapons and infrastructure that would allow them to conduct an attack like that again. And that's going to take time. The tunnels, as you just mentioned, in terms of developing that a little further, there's between 50 and 100, not tunnels themselves, tunnel complexes, right? It is massive, 500 kilometers of tunnel under the ground where they've been storing weapons, food, water, everything else that they need to fight for years. So they can go on for months kind of as they are living in the subterranean, world that they've created, where allegedly, the command centers under Al-Shifa Hospital in central Gaza, They use civilian infrastructure to hide. And so the problem is you got to go in there and you got to go get it. So what they've been doing the last few weeks is what we call kinetic shaping operations. That's where they're going to launch airstrikes to try to take out as much infrastructure as they can from the air, trying to minimize civilian casualties to the extent possible, and then also try to take out the rockets that are still flying into Israel some 20-something days later, because they pose a threat to the civilian populace. Once they feel that they've done that to the extent possible, there'll be a full push on the ground into Gaza, absent any other political considerations.
And then what's to come of the hostages? I mean, I know Hamas had offered, hey, release our Palestinians and we'll release your hostages, but that's not going to happen.
No, I mean, well, first of all, I mean, I had oversight for hostage rescue operations and policy when I was at the Pentagon, so I've overseen a lot of cases over the years. This is by far the most complicated I've ever seen in my professional career. 200 people, 230 at this point, it sounds like, scattered all over the place in tunnel systems under the ground, potentially more than one group holding them, no confirmed intelligence as to where they all are, making simultaneous clandestine rescues virtually impossible, even if you could get access in the area. And the threat from small arms fire to helicopters, that kind of stuff, RPGs, picture like a Black Hawk Down scenario is a realistic threat, right? So that's not really something that's likely to see. You're basically looking either in negotiations or when the ground force comes in. And so, I mean, Hamas knew what they were doing. That's the one thing the hostage population should inform everybody who's listening, right? It wasn't like they took hostages from one small village somewhere in southern Israel where at the end of their rampage, the cell leader who was in charge of that particular group said, hey, let's grab some hostages, go back to Israel. They took them from all over southern Israel, which means there was a directive that was given ahead of time to take hostages. What does that tell us? It tells us Hamas knew how big and how dangerous this attack was going to be because they knew they were going to incur a massive Israeli response, and they knew that they were at a military disadvantage because they don't have armor, artillery, and air power. So they had to take something to try to mitigate the advantage the Israelis had. In this case, was hostages. So it becomes a question if they're being used as human shields or actual bargaining chips. If they're bargaining chips, they should be safe somewhere, quiet, kept away from the fighting. If they're being used as human shields, then they're going to die in some, command center, where Hamas has kept them. I mean, at the end of the day, Hamas took them against their will and are holding them. It is Hamas's responsibility to keep them safe and keep them out of areas where the Israeli military said were conducting operations. That's Hamas's responsibility, not Israel's.
Well, how did that 19-year-old female soldier get out then? Because she was released yesterday.
Yep. So she was being held as a one-off in one location because, again, we don't know where they all are. They, groups of 2s and 3s here or there, or they all off individually. That happened to be one particular area where they had intelligence where she was, and they're able to grab her, which is great. If they can continue to do so, that would obviously be incredible to free everyone. But like I said, this is not one of those situations where you've got a handful of hostages. We're talking, well over 200. So I think there's a chance we could see more of that. Special operations forces operating alongside conventional as they push into Gaza. But it's unlikely we're to see some sort of dramatic rescue that's going to somehow get all 200 plus out. It's going to be a combination of negotiations and then, targets of opportunity where they pop up to help rescue folks like yesterday, as you just described.
And so the unknown of whether they're using them as bargaining chips or human shields, the only way we'll learn the answer to that question is if Hamas either initiates some negotiation or responds to the initiation of negotiation for their release?
Yes, so there have been ongoing negotiations, and there still are in Doha and Qatar. So Qatar has been used as a state to help negotiations with the difficult actors. The Taliban had their office there for a long time. The U.S., still engages through the Taliban through the office in Doha. Hamas is kind of their leadership is hosted there. And so the Qataris have been hosting, peace talks or negotiations. They're not really peace talks, I guess. Some combination thereof. And there was just reports that the head of Israeli intelligence, the Mossad, flew to Doha this past weekend. And so there's definitely ongoing negotiations. Prime Minister Netanyahu said as much. I think, they're digging in their heels for demands. I believe Hamas wanted, massive amounts of fuel brought in, and Israel said no. And so, a deal for some of the foreigners broke down. But there's also problems domestically in Israel from a political consideration, because if they're negotiating and all they're going to get out is the foreigners and the Israelis are stuck and they're all going to die, that doesn't really work either. So it's a very difficult situation given the number of actors involved.
Right, and so if they released all the hostages or a significant number of the Israeli hostages, then it makes them more susceptible to that ground invasion and makes it more likely that IDF would get down into those tunnels and fight it out, right, without concern for, I don't want to say it this way, but I don't know how else to say it, without concern for the hostages.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to take every opportunity they can to try to mitigate the risk to any of the hostages that are there. They're going to try to negotiate, but at the end of the day, right, you have Prime Minister Netanyahu was sitting in office, a guy who, by the way, has been running on a pro-security platform for a long time, was in charge for the single largest mass slaughter, execution, torture, and rape, in some cases burning them to death, of Jews since the Holocaust in a single day. It's like when everybody talks about the mindset of like being like 9/11, this was massive in terms of the impact to the Israeli population that was there. The vicious and heinous ways in which people were tortured, murdered, has been unseen to date. And so he has a responsibility to protect his folks. And so people who are kind of saying, hey, you know, there needs to be a ceasefire right now, that's just not how this is going to work. And here's why. It would be the equivalent, 2 weeks after 9/11, saying, all right, stop the missile launches in Afghanistan, with Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. They've got a legitimate concern about U.S. military presence in the Middle East. We should really just withdraw all of our troops and, not really go after them for what they did to us. Everybody in this call would look at us like you were crazy. There's absolutely no way. The Israelis are saying the same thing. Like, you cannot expect us, after what happened, to not continue to persecute the end of this organization. But the question then becomes what happens afterwards, because there isn't a real clear post-governance plan, which is why General Petraeus came out and said, hey, be sure you understand the end state before you move in, because once you go in there and you clear everything out, Hamas isn't going to take back over. Israel's never going to allow it. The PLO and Fatah, which controls the West Bank, the other portion of the Palestinian territories, is saying they're not going back into Gaza on the backs of an Israeli tank. The Israelis saying they won't occupy or govern the space. So then who's in charge afterwards? Is it just a power vacuum? Somebody's going to need to rebuild and do reconstruction. You got 2.2 million Palestinians between the halfway point and the wall in Egypt right now, in areas that still have to be cleared. What do you do with those folks? There's a lot of open questions right now, and that's the reason the Arab states are all concerned, because they're worried the Palestinians are going to get permanently displaced into the Sinai. So this is still very much a regional powder keg.
Yeah, good description, and particularly with the unanswered questions that are, dizzying. Is there any play that could be made to try to draw them out of the tunnels? Is there any discussion or strategy that could be employed to do that, or to attempt to do that?
Yeah, I mean, in theory you could, trying to pump, smoke or whatever else or things in there. There's different techniques for trying to clear the tunnels out, but the complex is just so massive, right? And in order to sustain air down there in a tunnel complex that massive, you have to have ventilation, electricity, everything else. So, we see what's happening now, right? There's been no food, very minimal food, water deliveries over the last 3 weeks, and people are somehow barely managing to cling on, with everything that's going. So there is no easy, quick way to push everybody out of those tunnels without putting hostages at risk should they be down there. And Hamas knows that. They're not stupid. That's the other reason. So, they took them for a reason.
Right. But doesn't Hamas have enough oil or gasoline and water and food for months, and they're just withholding it from the citizens?
Yeah, they have enough to sustain their force, because they've got, their force is estimated like 40,000. I don't know how many there actually are and how many have been killed now. But whatever they have in the tunnels, it's not enough for, 2.2 million people that are there. Doesn't mean they still shouldn't be bringing whatever they have up to the surface. But I meant that more in terms of the relation to the question about the tunnels, about, trying to get them out. They have what they need to survive down there. So unless you can flush them out using some sort of smoke, for lack of a better term, something like that, to get them out of there, some sort of chemicals, I don't know. But then what's legal under laws of warfare, and then also with the risk of the hostages. This is going to be a tough fight. This is going to be a very difficult one. And we also have, but let's not forget, Hamas has been sponsored by Iran for years. And we fought, I personally fought against the Shia-backed militias in Iraq in 2008. We've been fighting them for 20 years. So they have experience, watching the tactics, techniques, and procedures that Western forces use, and, how to booby trap houses, that kind of stuff. And we saw, wasn't widely publicized, but during the response to the attack on the 7th, a lot of very special Israeli operations units, top of the line, took significant casualties because they were ambushed and there was, booby traps left behind. It's very clear that they are learning from, 20 years of warfare, and this is going to be a very difficult fight.
He is Alex Plitzas, Army veteran, Special Operations Association of America board member, and non-resident senior fellow with the Middle East Program's N7 initiative. Alex, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Tony Dreyfus, founder and president of Metropolis Coffee Company and a proud new customer of Signature Bank. We're a 19-year-old specialty coffee roaster located in the heart of Chicago. Some of your favorite restaurants and cafes serve our coffee. As a small business manufacturer, we understand the importance of working with the right bank, and that's why we made the move to Signature Bank. We were tired of the impersonal service that our large bank had provided. A friend referred us to Signature Bank, and their team was on site to understand our operations firsthand. They provided us the working capital to continue our successful business operations and to fuel our ambitions for innovation and growth. We now have the flexibility to grow at our own pace. That personal touch, you can't find that at a large bank, but we found it at Signature, and we can't thank them enough.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality. Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
All right. Balance of Nature. I just took it. I crack 6 capsules into warm water, stir it, and voila, I'm getting the nutrition my body needs, because good nutrition is the foundation of all aspects of health. And you have to admit you didn't get enough fruits and veggies yesterday, and that's where Balance of Nature comes in. With fruits and vegetables, you're giving your body the best possible fuel. You'll have more energy, you'll be stronger, you'll think more quickly. So Balance of Nature is where it's at. They take the fruits and vegetables, put them through this powdered advanced vacuum cold process, which stabilizes the maximum nutrient content. Real food, real nutrition. The number to call is 800-246-8751, 800-246-8751. Use discount code Chicago. First-timers get 35% off and free shipping. And you can also go online to balanceofnature.com, discount code Chicago.
Cable news. Noisy, out of touch, on repeat. Tired of all the lookalikes? So are we. Salem News Channel is here to change the game. Streaming 24/7, free on your TV, with the greatest collection of conservative voices. Home to Dinesh D'Souza, Andrew Wilkow, Brandon Tatum, and more. Like you, we say what's wrong and what's right. Unfiltered and unapologetic. Salem News Channel. We're the answer to the mainstream media. Learn more at snc.tv.
AM 560. The Answer.
Dan and Amy, not since Mike Ditka saying "take me out to the ball game" have I heard such a cacophonous public display of musical effort. Flava Flav from Public Enemy fame singing the national anthem before a Miami Bucks game. Take a listen for as long as you can.
The singing of the Star-Spangled Banner performed tonight by 6-time Grammy Award-nominated rapper and artist Flava Flav.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the
Flav, stop yelling at us. Stop yelling at us. You know, but again, you don't need great range as a rapper. You just need a great act like this.
Hit me!
This is Flav's wheelhouse here. This is where he needs to stay. This is what he should have done instead of the Nash. Have somebody else do the Star-Spangled Banner where you have to do those runs and have that range. 911.
Don't you see how they reacting? They only come and they come when they want. So get them up
All right, so anyway,
Whew.
Flava Flav before the Bucks. I don't know if he's going to be invited back, at least not to perform the national anthem. Maybe 911 is a joke.
Okay. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning. Thanks to Justin Kosick. Are you dressing up for Halloween, Justin? Hello?
No.
Wow.
There you go.
Wow, he's married
he's
and all grown
he's
up
an
now.
adult. Come on.
Anna Quinn McCarthy, have fun trick-or-treating with Emmett. We're back here bright and early tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. It is now 9 a.m. WIND Chicago.
Will the U.S. keep helping Israel and Ukraine fight wars? I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
The world is on edge, and how the U.S. wields its leadership will be a critical factor in determining what happens next.
Democratic Senator Patty Murray just said that at a hearing where moments ago pro-Palestinian protesters spoke out.
Ceasefire now! Save the children of Gaza!
He started to protest as Secretary of State Anthony Blinken was just starting to make an opening statement. The Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin